What's going on, everybody? Welcome in to Blazers Uprise Live. That's what I'm gonna call us from now on. We're gonna move away from the podcast branding, but that's for another day. Because this episode of the show, we're just gonna be covering our mock off season and all the craziness that's gone on during that. So if you're not involved in our mock off season, you can see what some of our viewers have done with some of their teams. Some of it's good, a lot of it's bad. There's a lot of craziness, some very active people. I figured it'd be that way with everybody quarantined, everybody shut in the house, basically. So this has been entertaining, but I'm joined by Eric Brandt, and I'm joined by Eric Klazer. So we got a third. We got Patreon donor, Eric Klazer. Thank you for your support, man. Glad to have you on the show once again. Pushed this off for a little bit. Everything happened with that pandemic. We didn't get you on in March, but got you on in April. So what's up, man?
Having me. Yeah, pandemic is pretty crazy. Getting stuck in a hotel room for a month in Vegas, and now I'm stuck in my apartment in Germany, and yeah.
Yeah, you
lots of off season to
perfect time to participate in this and just try to work out trades all day, right?
Yeah, exactly. I like it's like, oh, I can do that, play video games or clean my apartment. So.
Clay's had like the biggest trade of this thing. We'll get into that. We're literally just going to run down a list of slides. I don't have every team covered in here because that was just a ton of work to end up doing. But I have a lot of the teams covered in here. Let me turn my monitor or something. Line this up a little bit better. There we go. I have a lot of teams in this, like the most active teams I have in this. First, I want to start off with the Bradley Beal trade because I actually think this trade is somewhat realistic in a sense. Because Bradley Beal could get traded in the next couple of years. Washington, they've been hanging on to him, but it might be the smart decision to move off him at some point. And if they do decide to move off him, Denver would be one of the teams that would possibly look to make a splash and get somebody like that, and that's what they did here. Denver basically gave up Gary Harris, Will Barton, Keita Bates-Diop, Michael Porter Jr., the 21st pick, and the 22nd or their 2022 pick, which is unprotected, but that shouldn't be that good of a pick. And they got back Bradley Beal, Mikal Bridges, who I think is underrated, and the 37th pick. They set up this trade by trading Michael Porter Jr. for Mikal Bridges and the 10th pick, and then they immediately flipped the 10th pick. I thought that was a really good trade, and then they swung the steal for Bradley Beal. So I want to hear both your thoughts on Denver, on Washington here. Clays, we'll start with you. We'll start with Clays.
Okay, go ahead, Clays.
That was probably, like you said, one of the most realistic trades in this thing. Denver, they get a 30 points per game score. Somebody who can fit next to Jokic pretty well, I think. And Mikal Bridges, great young talent. Who knows what his ceiling is? I mean, Phoenix gets Porter Jr., who, was projected number one pick in the draft before his injuries. And then Wizards get out of Beal's contract. I mean, they have a little bit more to do with John Wall, but, I mean, they pick up a ton of assets. I mean, I actually like that trade for all three teams.
Yeah.
I love this trade for Denver. I'm actually scared in real life of this happening, being that Denver's in Portland's division and how realistic this seems, because Beal would be a perfect fit to consolidate some of their depth like Harrison Barton for a guy like Beal. And like you said, the picks don't really matter that much in terms of their long-term viability over the next couple of years. So I would hate this as a Portland fan if Denver got Beal for this type of package. For the Wizards' point of view, I thought they did pretty well. I like the picks they got. I probably would have held out for a younger player included instead of Gary Harris and Will Barton. Just maybe like those picks and someone you could build around. But overall, I think it's a pretty good trade for both teams.
So my thoughts on this are Mikal Bridges is a really underrated part of this deal. He fits in there perfectly, just somebody that can defend, somebody that can shoot, right? So you got Jamal Murray, Bradley Beal backcourt, and then you got who knows who their starting four is going to be because Paul Millsap's a free agent and Jeremy Grant opting out of his player option. But, I assume they'd bring back at least one of those guys to start at the four, and then you got Jokic. You got 3-and-D guy at that small forward spot in Bridges who can replace Barton, and I think that was a really underrated part of the move. So those huge win for Denver here. Denver's been patient after this too, which is smart. A lot of people have been popping off moves left and right, just kind of wild trades, and we'll get to those later on in this episode. But Denver made their big splash, and then they've been patient, which is smart. They probably got some follow-up moves just because everybody's had follow-up moves. Seems like everybody's made multiple trades, but Denver's been patient with this, so I respect them for that.
Yeah. Hey, real quick. So for these streams, there's no tampering rules in effect. We're analyzing trades and talking about other teams and stuff. So, feel free in the YouTube chats to talk about other teams and other players and stuff. I'm not going to give you guys warnings on that.
Yeah, because we literally are following the CBA to the T in this mock off season. We're following pretty much every CBA rule.
Yeah.
So can't even tamper. But I also wanted to get into Washington a little bit. I think they could have waited and gotten better value. You see some of the trades that have gone down after this, and Washington definitely could have gotten better value, but this trade was made really early, so he couldn't have known, I guess. But I would have held out for a little bit more. Maybe try to get another young player, but it's a pretty decent package, getting 2 first-round picks, a future first-round pick unprotected, and some decent role players for Bradley Beal, considering some of the other stuff that has gone down.
I think the lure of having picks in a draft when you're having a mock draft or an actual draft, some teams just want picks because they've been scouting these players, and so the 10th pick is probably a little more valuable in this type of simulation than it would be in real life.
Granted, I hope that we can get to maybe a 2021 offseason in a month and a half. I shouldn't even say that because then people will ask a bunch of questions. Don't ask questions on it. We don't know anything yet, but it would be cool to see some of these.
Hey,
jump in.
We're gonna keep going. We're going to keep going until we have a season to talk about, because as long as there's we're stuck in this, we might as well keep going.
They're talking about pushing the draft back to August at the earliest, which gives us leeway before any roster moves will really happen, so we're able to drag this. It's April 10th. So 4 months from now, we could be in talking about 2022 draft for our mock off season. Some of these people are going to regret trading some of these picks. They're going to learn the hard way as to why you protect your picks, your future first-round picks, when you trade them out, because you had a lot of unprotected picks being traded. And what we did after a little bit is we started making people put at least a little bit of protections on their pick, just because so many unprotected picks getting traded is kind of unrealistic. Denver's first being unprotected in this deal is realistic because you're getting back Bradley Beal. You're trading for a all-star caliber player, so it's realistic to have that pick unprotected, but you had some unprotected picks being swapped out for role players that just didn't make much sense at all, and we'll get into those. So you want to move on to the next team?
Yeah.
All right.
One thing that's going to happen too is some of the smart teams that did pick up unprotected picks will be good in a couple of years too. So you're going to have a situation like the Celtics from a few years ago where they had the Nets picks and they were good, but they were still getting guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, even though they were a playoff team. So that's what's going to happen in this game, and we're going to have a lot of teams that are going to be made fun of they're the New Jersey Nets. Destro, I'm talking to you, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Well, there's one team that really struck gold with getting unprotected picks. We'll get to them, but moving on to the next team, we got We the West. They used to be We the North, now they're We the Westbrook. They got Russell Westbrook for Kyle Lowry, straight up. You would think that Houston would trade or would try and get assets, Why would they trade Westbrook for Lowry in the first place? I don't know, but you'd think if they did so, they'd try and get some assets back. But they straight up swapped out Russell Westbrook for Kyle Lowry. Doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. This is run by AM Productions, all right? AM, man, we'll get to your slide in a little bit. I'm going to bump yours up. I had yours later on the show. I'm going to bump yours up to 3 there. I just showed it for a second, but I'm going to bump yours up to 3 because we're going to talk about it next, man. I'm sorry. We're going to go in. But Raptors get a steal. Russell Westbrook, I think, makes that starting lineup better, which I'm not a Russell Westbrook fan at all. I'm not even really that much of a fan of his game, but you get him for Kyle Lowry, who might be declining at this point. I think that's a steal. So let me get your guys' thoughts on that trade.
I mean, for me, if he hadn't done the Robert Covington trade prior to this, it actually makes some sense. Again, Kyle Lowry's nowhere near the value of Russell Westbrook, but you can at least get out of his contract. He's a good shooter that can still be around Harden, unlike Westbrook. And you would have other guys, Lowry and Rocco and Tucker, and they wouldn't be bad, and they could be so much set up better for the future. But since their future was already destroyed,
which we'll get to in their slide, yeah.
it does.
Clays, real quick, their future was kind of already destroyed making the trade for Westbrook to begin with. So that's why it doesn't make sense to salary dump him for Lowry, even though you get out of Westbrook's contract. It was just a few months ago that they traded all that stuff to get Westbrook and ruin their future before the trades that AM made in this offseason. So not only do you not have the picks from the Westbrook trade that you got him for initially, but you also lost other future assets. So that's like the worst possible scenario, is trying to redo what your plan is and reshape it, not including Westbrook, but not having any assets to make trades now either. So like, it's the worst of both situations now for AM. So that's why I don't get trading Westbrook for Lowry. If he didn't owe all those other future picks to Oklahoma City to begin with, then I could maybe say like, yeah, they only traded for Westbrook to get out of Chris Paul's contract, and now they got out of Westbrook's contract, so it'd make it a little easier. But the fact that they still owe all that stuff to Oklahoma City and now owe a bunch of stuff to Orlando on top of that, which we'll talk about, that's the part that doesn't make sense to me.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I'm not arguing that at all. I was just trying to find some sanity in the trade. And if you were trying to get into the free agent class in 2021, after you could get rid of Lowry's contract, it could make sense where if you just have Harden on the books, if you can get rid of Westbrook, you get rid of Lowry, and then somehow get rid of Eric Gordon's contract, and now you're a huge player in free agency.
But they're like in a window right now. They shouldn't be talking about having a window next offseason. You know what I mean? Like, that's they need to win in the next few years. They don't have a huge long window that like a team like Dallas has a lot bigger window moving forward than a team like Houston does.
Definitely.
See, I was planning on getting into Houston once we got to their slide, just talking about like Westbrook's fit in Toronto, since we're on the Toronto slide.
Oh, yeah. I kind of like Westbrook on Toronto, but the second part of this trade slide, Westbrook in the same lineup with Julius Randle, that makes me want to barf.
Yeah, that's a little rough fit. So you had Julius Randle and a second being traded for Norman Powell and McCaw and Toronto's unprotected first. Giving up an unprotected first for Julius Randle doesn't make much sense, especially when you're trading Norman Powell, who I would actually make the argument that Norman Powell might be better than Julius Randle. To be quite honest, Norman Powell can defend a bit. He had an uptick in production last year. He can score the ball. He's pretty efficient as well. Can play the 2 or the 3, kind of an energy guy. Like, I might rather have Norman Powell than Julius Randle, to be honest. And you already have Serge Ibaka and Marc Gasol. You already have some bigs there.
They're
you have
free agents.
Yeah, I mean, but you could bring him back without having to give up assets in a trade for those guys. You could probably bring back Gasol and Ibaka. They like being there in Toronto. You got Siakam, so you don't really need another big, especially at the expense of a wing. So even swapping Powell for Randle straight up, I didn't really get. But then giving up that unprotected first on top of that, I felt was definitely like a little bit of an overpay. So if they didn't give up that first, I could see the sense behind the trade, but giving up that first was overkill in my opinion. Yeah,
that was a terrible trade for Toronto to get Randall, because again, like you said, it basically makes all their restricted free agent or their free agents that they have the bird rights on, basically they're gone. So I just don't see getting Randall for Gasol and Ibaka basically and Powell.
Yep.
You're losing three guys.
There's a couple of people. Julius Randle is one of them. Aaron Gordon's another one that people just either hate him or love him. And there's some people that just think they're like the next best players and that they just have untapped potential and stuff like that. Whereas, most of the people who are in the know realize that those kind of players are ones that can put up stats on bad teams, but they're never really going to be a good piece on a winning team, in my opinion.
Well, and even if they're, you think they're the next best thing in the league, you could still trade to get them for a lot less than what they actually are trading for these guys.
At least protect the pick. If that was top 10 protected, I'd say it's an overpay, but it wouldn't be a drastic overpay. Like, who knows with Toronto? They could end up having an injury that year and end up in the lottery. I mean, you look at the Blazers this year, and then what if they win the lottery? They don't get their pick just because they wanted to get Julius Randle. That's why you got to protect your picks, even if it's top 3 protected, top 5 protected. It's not a lot of protection, but it's a lot better than leaving it unprotected. So people got a little too crazy with the unprotected picks. We're kind of like holding people accountable on that now when they submit their trades to us, that they should have protections on their pick unless they're getting a lot of value back. But let's move on to Houston here. And with the Houston slide, just be prepared for this. I didn't split up the trades. I just did incoming and outgoing so you could see like what they've traded and what they've gotten back. So here we go. Here is Houston. Outgoing: Russell Westbrook, Robert Covington, PJ Tucker, Ben McLemore, Isaiah Hartenstein, a 2022 Houston first, which is unprotected, and they gave New York the right to swap their 2023 first for Houston. They got back Kyle Lowry, Taj Gibson, Frank Ntilikina, Al-Farouq Aminu.
That's about as bad as you could do in this game, I think. I don't know if it would be possible to just throw a computer that had no idea the value of any of these players and make trades.
Yeah.
And it probably would be better than
nothing personal. But we told people before this that we would be evaluating these trades as if they're real trades. That was a part of this thing. That was to, hold you guys accountable. Maybe, don't go off the rails and, trade PJ Tucker, Robert Covington, and an unprotected first for Al-Farouq Aminu and Terrence Ross, which was the initial trade. Covington and Tucker for Terrence Ross and Aminu was questionable to begin with, and then you throw in an unprotected first. It just didn't make a ton of sense to me. Didn't make any sense to me, to be quite honest. I'm trying to be nice here, but
and even if you took that trade and said, well, maybe Terrence Ross would be perfect in that Houston system, and he could blow up and be a really good player for them. But then he traded him for like Cody Zeller or something,
and then he traded Cody. Cody Zeller's been traded like 5 times.
Starting with me,
yeah. You started that off. Poor Cody Zeller doesn't know where the hell he's going to be next year. But yeah, it just doesn't make much sense. And I saw AM says he traded Robert Covington because he didn't think he'd resign. Starting next year, he still has 2 years left on his contract, and I don't know why he wouldn't resign with a team that's up there in the West. It didn't make any sense. So that reasoning from AM didn't make much sense to me.
And Covington is literally the perfect player for Houston.
Yeah.
Like I that fit for me. I was just like, the dude lockdown defender, can shoot, he doesn't need the ball, so he can watch James Harden dribble for the whole game, and he would never complain. Now you have nobody.
Yeah.
I mean, I told Aaron this morning, I was like, he's literally got 6 to 8 years until he's out of this hole.
Yeah.
And once again, you just gave up a first and Capella to get Covington in the first place. So not only did you trade an unprotected first to get rid of him and not get anything back, but you also gave up all that stuff to get him. So that combined with the Westbrook trade and all you gave up for that, Houston literally has no one to trade right now and no assets to attach to guys like Taj Gibson if he wanted to make a trade for someone that's a little better. Mm-hmm. Like he has no picks to attach. He now has no pick swaps to attach. Like there's nothing he can do really to fix the mistakes that have been made.
So, I have confidence in myself during these things, you know. I have no confidence that I could fix this. Like,
I don't know how. Like, it'd be impossible this year.
I mean, you might be able to get a shorter contract to get rid of Eric Gordon, but I don't know who would take it.
Yeah,
that's
that's a real life contract that Houston. I don't know what the hell they're doing. They're paying Eric Gordon almost $20 million a year through 2023. If they end up winning the championship with him, Eric Gordon becomes guaranteed for 2023, 2024, $20 million. Why are you paying Eric Gordon, extending him another 4 years after this year, for like almost $20 million per year? That was something in real life I really didn't understand with them.
Yeah. Well, see, the problem is they don't have any first-round picks or any draft picks in this draft. So basically you have to somehow get the perfect player at the mid-level exception just to keep the team like in the middle of the playoff race.
Yeah.
And then maybe sign a couple vet mins that fit perfectly. So you can kind of sort of save this maybe since you still have Harden. But yeah, he's going to have a tough time digging out of this in future years because he doesn't have a lot of picks in the future or assets to trade. So yeah, it's going to be tough.
And that's the reason Houston was literally last on my list of teams I wanted to control during this thing. Just because it's not, they didn't have many assets to trade. We're kind of like locked into their roster unless they did what they've done and just completely like blow it up, but also trade picks. So it's not even a rebuild. It's like the opposite of like rebuilding. It's like demolishing it with just, they're basically nuking the organization into the ground at this point. I'm going to probably get demonetized for saying nuking, but anyway, no, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the Covington trade, if you really wanted to trade Covington, you look at what Orlando got back for him, because Covington initially got traded to Orlando. They got back Trevor Ariza, Gary Trent Jr., a first-round pick, and a second-round pick. So you could have gotten good value on him if you really didn't want to keep him, and Trevor Ariza would have been a good fit there. Gary Trent Jr. would have been a good fit there, and a young player, and then they could have gotten a pick instead of giving one up. Like, I don't know. I don't know. It just, struggling a little bit. Hopefully AM Productions learns from this because, this has definitely not been a good situation here in Houston.
I mean, if you definitely hate James Harden and you want to see him have no future, you do exactly what AM just did. So, I mean, James Harden is going to be the most unhappy person for 5 years.
I mean, maybe he's emulating Daryl Morey, and like after the whole China thing, like Daryl Morey, I don't know. I mean, Daryl Morey, kind of a crazy guy, maybe. Whoops, I didn't mean to switch that. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going with this. I'm trying to like give it like some sort of positive spin here, but it's a struggle. So anyway, let's move on to the most active team during this whole thing. The next guy, you wouldn't do it after Houston? You want me to move it later?
No. Oh, no. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Philly.
You showed the Dallas slide, so I thought you meant
No, I accidentally clicked on it.
Okay.
No, the most... Yeah, no, trust me. Me and you both know who the most active person...
Yeah.
Other people know who the most active person has been, because I'll literally be in trade negotiations, or they'll submit a trade to me, and they'll say... And I like won't respond for a little bit, but they'll see I'm online. They'll be like, "Hey, any update?" I'm like, "Yeah, sorry, guess who made another trade?" And they literally say, "People's Mix," and I'm like, "Yeah." So the man made 11 trades in 2 days. People's Mix made 11 trades in 2 days. This is what he has.
I had to log every one of them.
Where's the outgoing and incoming for that? Crap. Okay, let me update the slide. Let's talk about Boston. Let me update the Philly slide. You guys can talk about Boston because I accidentally messed up the Philly slide. Yay. But Eric, you can lead this off. Clays, you can lead this off. I'll defend my man Destrom here. But let's talk about Boston while I redo this Philly slide.
In Destrom's defense, he told me that he did not know initially that we were playing this out in the future. Even though we told you guys not to devalue future picks, even if that was the case. So he knew that, or he should have known that if he watched any of them. But he just threw away assets like they were nothing. And that's exactly what we warned people against. To me, LaMarcus Aldridge is worth expiring contracts and a mid-first round pick. So
he ended up getting traded for Marcus Smart, Daniel Tice, the 17th pick, and the 30th pick. Was the trade for Aldridge that he made for Aldridge. I just wanted to put that in there.
And I actually, I mean, I got a lot of heat for this, but I actually think Tice is. I'd rather have Tice at $5 million than not have Smart. And you don't have Romeo Langford on here, but he was outgoing as well. I just don't. We talked about this all year about the Celtics. Every time someone mentioned them trading for Whiteside, that would be a perfect fit for Whiteside, and the amount of stuff they would have had to give up to get Whiteside is the same as Aldridge because his contract is very similar.
I think Aldridge is a much better fit because he can space the floor.
Yes, Aldridge fits way better than Whiteside would have in that lineup. But what I'm saying is, we talked about all year about how Boston wasn't willing to put in all those assets just to get Whiteside. And I think the feeling would be the same for me for Aldridge, even though he would fit really well. I think that would be a perfect addition, like in your 2K stream, where you were Portland and you signed him to a mid-level exception, not this season, but the season after, and kind of finish his career there. But yeah, I didn't like that trade for Boston at all.
Yeah, I didn't like it for Boston at all either. LaMarcus Aldridge I think is a great fit in Boston, but he's on a 1-year deal basically, so you don't give up a couple first-round picks. Marcus Smart, who's not on a horrendous contract, and he's a really good player, defender, shooter, whatever. And I just, if you're going to give up that, you don't need to give up all those picks as well. So I mean, he is a great fit for them, and then they will have an amazing starting lineup, but they have no future with him. And then I don't know if he stays there. He goes somewhere else, like you said, Portland, or I can't give up Ty Smart 2 first-rounders for LaMarcus Aldridge.
See, I thought it was smart last year to let Horford go and kind of go younger. And even though they were kind of in a win-now window, they still have Tatum and Brown, so their window's open for a long time. So it didn't really make sense to me to then let Horford go and then trade all that stuff for Aldridge. Like, you could have just re-signed Horford and basically kept all those assets, right?
Well, I mean, they wouldn't even give that many assets up for Jimmy Butler, so
right.
I just don't see it.
I think Aldridge is just such a perfect fit there. To be quite honest, you brought up Whiteside, Eric, about how Whiteside would be a good fit. I think Aldridge is a better fit.
I didn't say Whiteside would be a good fit. I'm saying we fielded questions about them, what it would take for Boston to trade for someone on that contract. And this is exactly what we were talking about. Boston wouldn't trade up all those things for one player at that age. I mean, LaMarcus is in his mid-30s. Like, it's not like he's going to fit long-term with Tatum and Brown and those kind of guys. I mean, they need guys that'll be more in that window, not older guys that make 26 million or whatever LaMarcus makes.
True, but I think that could possibly be the best the best starting lineup offensively if that happened, if you have LaMarcus Aldridge there, because LaMarcus Aldridge has stretched his game out to 3, to the 3-point line in the past year, and provide that extra shooter so that guys like Jaylen Brown have more space to slash, guys like Jason Tatum have more space to attack fours off the dribble. You get that amount of spacing in that offense with some of the perimeter creators they have there. That lineup offensively would be tremendous. You still got good defenders. Jason Tatum's a great defender. Jaylen Brown's a pretty good defender. Gordon Hayward is average. Aldridge average. Still should be a borderline top 10 defense and the best offense in the league. That would be a scary team in my opinion.
My problem
Weren't they
is
already a top 5 defense, top 5 offense this past year?
No.
There's no way. I thought they would have a better record if they were top 5 in both, I would think. I thought they were one of the only teams to be top 5 in both.
The thing is, though, that would be great if Aldridge is the perfect fit and all that stuff, but he's still on a 1-year deal. So if he bounces next offseason and goes back to Portland or whatever, then you gave up all that stuff and now you're worse shape for a 1-year window where I don't even think – I mean, it's a good roster, but I don't think they're winning the championship this year. So
I mean, the 17th – but think about this. Tice would be expiring as well, right? You gave up Smart, which you had to give up to match. The 17th pick, the 30th pick, this isn't a great draft. You know what I mean? In a normal draft, that's probably the 25th pick and the 40th pick, to be quite honest. So it's not a ton of value in terms
Torrey's
of the
got
picks.
to defend his trade.
No, it's not a ton of value in terms of the picks compared to a normal draft. So that's the thing. When you look at draft picks, that's also the thing to remember. Quit trying to cut me off. Let me finish, then you can talk. But the one thing you have to remember with this year's draft, if teams make trades in real life, is the 17th pick in this year's draft is a normal 24th, 25th pick. Maybe even a little bit worse. If Anthony Simons came out was the 24th pick to us, a couple years ago. If that same prospect was in this draft, Anthony was 2 years younger or whatever, I think he'd be maybe a top 15 pick just because this draft doesn't have a ton of talent. So that is something you have to remember when evaluating trades, is that the 17th pick in this year's draft isn't normally the value of the 17th pick.
Real quick, the Boston Celtics were 5th in offense and 4th in defense.
I'm surprised they weren't better. I'm surprised they didn't have a better record.
Eat it, Torrey.
I literally said I don't think so because I would assume they have a better record.
And I didn't even do any prepping.
They're pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, number 1 offense, possible top 10 defense with Brad Stevens. That could be I don't know. Maybe you take that. I think they could be better with that lineup. Problem is a couple of other trades they made.
I had already looked that up when you said that, but Torrey told me not to cut him off anymore, so I was waiting.
Yeah, I mean, let me make my point, and then you can shut it down. No, you can do whatever. I heard you
he's saying,
yep.
I just wanted to throw that in because that's what we were talking about before. But yeah. I personally, I'd rather have Smart and Tice if I was Boston than Aldridge, and then they gave up the picks on top of that. So that's just me.
Yeah. Remaking this Philly graphic is not fun. I'll just say that. Oh my god. Oh my.
And then so the other part of Boston.
Of course, this is the one I mess up on. The Philly one is the one I mess up on and forget to because I did type them out. And then I accidentally somehow reverted it back to Houston's outgoing and stuff. Of course, literally the one with the most on it is the one I mess up on.
Yeah. Yeah, you feel my pain with the sheets.
Oh my god, that sheet's such a mess, bro. Your whole right side. I'm looking at that sheet right now to do this. The whole right side of this is just a goddamn mess. My goodness.
I can't. So, usually I, add rows and stuff when different draft picks get changed, but I literally can't do that because then it messes up the trades on the side, so I have to, move everything down every time he makes a trade down.
So, Eric, how much time are you putting into these sheets every day, especially with Philly?
I'm not going to talk about it. It's been I was so overwhelmed on Monday night, and then I got sick on top of that, so it was a disaster. But, once I got them all in, that original 15 trades or whatever, it's been fairly easy it's kind of settled down a little bit, but then I got that draft board up and So every trade that happens, I have to fix that, and yeah. So
Let me just say this: it's likely that Philly only is bringing back one player after this offseason. In this mock,
they only have 2 right now, right?
they only have 1 under contract for next year. Oh, 2. Yeah, 2. But we'll get into that after I finish this damn graphic.
Well,
Thanks, People's Picks.
Let's finish Boston though.
Yeah.
So for some reason, Jordan Poole was like the best player in the league according to Destro, and he was trying to give up unprotected firsts and stuff. And this is exactly what we were trying to avoid, is people like Jordan Poole getting traded for unprotected picks. So we had to override some stuff and work with some things. So
let me just throw this in there. Jordan Poole last year shot 33.3% from the field and 27.9% from the 3-point line. He's guy awful. Is worth a unprotected pick, which could be like the number 1 pick in the draft. I don't know what year it was, but it could be like if it's in the 22 draft, you might give up the chance at the next KD for a guy who shot 33% from the field and 28% from 3. I don't understand that. You maybe give up a chance to the next Zion, or the next Morant, or the next I don't know, one of those guys for Jordan Poole.
Because if I was Golden State, I don't like Grant Williams personally. But if Boston called me and said, "Hey, I'll give you Grant Williams for Jordan Poole," I'd be like, "Deal, done," instantly, right? So, and we were all puzzled at that pick to begin with last year when they took him at the end of the first round. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I would have given him away for free if I was Golden State, let alone trying to attach picks to it. So finally, we just basically made it a straight up across trade, which I think was pretty fair. But so you got your man, but yeah, that was exactly what we were talking about. Poole is not worth a pick, let alone giving up unprotected firsts and stuff like that. So then we get to Shake Milton, and all of a sudden he gives up 2 more firsts after we told him not to do that. He gives up 2 firsts unprotected for Shake Milton, and he gets back a bunch of picks in this draft, and that's how he justifies it. But it's the picks he originally had for the most part before he traded for LaMarcus Aldridge. And we've already talked about how crappy this draft is compared to that 2022 draft. And now if LaMarcus Aldridge leaves, Gordon Hayward leaves, and Boston's not very good, or not as good as they were the last couple of years, those picks could, you get an injury to a key player like Tatum or something, and those picks, that's why you don't unprotect them. And there's no reason why Philly would have not done that trade if you just offered 2 lottery protected first or something like that. There's no reason to start negotiations off with unprotected picks. So what you want to do, so you guys learn, you want to start with hey, I'll offer you a 2nd round pick, and they say no, I want a first unprotected, and then you say, okay, how about a lottery protected first? Then we'll meet in the middle, and then kind of negotiate from there. And you don't have to just be hey, I'll give you 2 unprotected for Shake Milton, and then the other team has no, they have to accept that, right? So you don't start off with your highest offer. It's like buying a car. You wouldn't go to someone and be hey, I'll give you $1 million for that Ford Pinto. You'd be you'd start off hey, I'll give you $100, right? And then they say no, it's selling for $1,000, and then you negotiate and meet in the middle. You don't just go to someone to offer them $1 million for a crappy car, So that's what some of you guys are doing with these trades, and that's why we're trying to tell you not to do that, but it just keeps happening.
The Eric rant is for real right now.
That's such a perfect analogy. Oh my god,
Destro, he's saying those unprotected picks are worth nothing. You're about to find out they're not, man.
I mean,
that's what the Brooklyn Nets thought when they traded for Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett, and you can say that's just an outlier situation, but even if those picks are the 30th pick, you still gave up 2 first-round picks for a guy that's not worth 2 first-round picks.
Yeah, but let me just say this. If those picks aren't worth anything, then the protections would still let them get traded. That's the thing. It's okay, the Boston first-round picks, they're a young team for the most part. Those picks, probably aren't going to be too high unless something drastic happens. But that's why you protect them. You protect them like 1 through 10 or whatever. And then if something drastic happens, you don't get completely screwed over for a decade or whatever. Like, you don't end up like the Brooklyn Nets did, where they had to pull a rabbit out of the hat to even get that organization to win 30, 35 games or whatever. So that's the thing. It's like you want to protect them in case something bad happens. And yeah, those are probably going to be like first round picks. They'd still be traded anyway. So
yeah,
that's why you throw on the protection.
That's exactly right.
But
and so just to add to that, like if it's at the trade deadline this year and you're like the second seed in the East and you know you're going to make the playoffs and you trade an unprotected pick, that's different than like 2 to 5 years from now. Mm-hmm. You don't know how your team's going to be, or like what injuries you're going to have, any of that kind of stuff. So like it doesn't happen that way. Like there's no way a guy like Shake Milton, no matter how good you think he'll be in the future, is going to get traded for 2 unprotected picks. Yeah.
And this one actually hurts me a little bit more too, because I had the Celtics number 2 on the teams I actually wanted to have.
Uh-huh.
And as the only person who didn't have an option, like I was like, oh, I would love to have the Celtics and have fun with that team and be able to make moves with all their assets. And if this as they are now, if you gave me them, I'd be unhappy to have them now, because I'd be like, I can't do anything.
You still got a lot of decent. You still got 2 first, or you still got what? Yeah, 2 first round picks, 2 second round picks, because they have the 26th pick as well. You still have young players. You still have some pieces. Aldridge is going to be expiring at the deadline. You have some young players. You can maybe like upgrade them into something. And they still got some flexibility there. I think Boston was high on my list as well, just because they had a lot of tools, you know. So that's the thing, is like I think the Aldridge trade, even though you guys are kind of ragging on it, I think it was his best trade, to be honest. So.
And who else was involved in that trade? Because you're really hyping up your trade.
I'm not hyping it up. I'm just defending him from the Wolves, man.
Okay, to say that's his best trade when all 3 of his trades were bad, that's not really saying much.
Well, I mean, I knew you were gonna put that context in there, but I'm just saying, like that I think that's a fact, is that was his best trade. So, you know, guys can thank me for that, because I ended up producing the best trade for him. But what's funny about you saying you wanted the Celtics is Clace was actually the one that I was negotiating with on Aldridge before that. I was negotiating Aldridge to Brooklyn. I'm not going to release what I was negotiating it for, but I ended up getting what I wanted anyway, from a different team, because, you know, kind of went a little roundabout way of getting the guy I wanted. No, I was negotiating LaMarcus Aldridge there, and then got a little better value. But it's not like, the thing is, Clays, you were willing to give me decent value for Aldridge before that.
Oh, for sure, a decent value. Not 2 first, a rotational player like Smart, who's good, Tice, and like I was looking. I mean, since we're on the stream and not in this chat, I was willing to move Jared Allen. Sorry, Josh Allen. I was willing to move Jared Allen to facilitate that, but I wasn't.
And a first, which is decent value. I was.
But there was no way I was going to do both.
True. But the thing is, I was probably gonna find more from someone, so I was gonna make you have to give up a little bit more, and then I found more from someone.
Because like Eric said from the start, Aldridge is probably worth about a mid-first and an expiring contract.
Yeah.
So
that's what I've been willing to give up.
In my opinion, Brooklyn giving up a similar package is better than Boston doing the same, because Boston's main pieces are a lot younger than Durant and Kyrie.
Correct.
So I think putting Aldridge with those 2 in more of a win now, right now type of window, whereas Boston sacrificed possibly the length of their window to try and win this season. So like I think it would have made more sense to have Aldridge with Durant and Kyrie versus Tatum and Brown and those kind of guys.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion.
I mean, I agree with that. Let me put in a stinger because we don't have a stinger in on here, which I forgot to put in, and I like my stinger. Actually, the stinger is the like transition slide. Actually, I'm gonna wait. On that because we're gonna talk about this for a bit. We talked about Boston for a while, but because I was fixing that graphic. But here we go. Where? Okay, no. Here we go. I gotta upload it. Here we go. Here is what Philly has done. Here's what Philly has done. So People's Mix made 11 trades in 2 days. That is a rate of 5.5 trades per day. Right? Not 5, more than 5 trades per day. This man was going off, and I don't know why. You take a team that was, there's no playoffs this year, but they were a buzzer-beating shot away from the conference finals the season before that, and that series went to, Game 7 against the eventual champs, which was the Raptors. So I don't know why they're literally, like, doing whatever the hell. I don't even know what you'd call what they're doing. Like, they're retooling, but I don't know. Like, I don't know what the purpose of all this is. Like, I don't know what the plan is. Like, he's traded for guys and then, like, touted their fit on the team and then traded them away. He's, like, had guys, like, he was talking about keeping Tobias, and now Tobias was a all-star level player, and then he immediately traded him away, which maybe he was driving up his value, whatever, but it's just like he's made so many different moves in so many different directions that it's hard to see like what the purpose is, because you got Al Horford, you trade him for Draymond Green, who's a horrible fit with Ben Simmons, and honestly there's a chance you could probably end up trading Draymond Green. It's like, why even trade for Draymond Green in the first place then? You know what I mean? I don't get it.
Well, you got the Minnesota pick in that deal.
Yeah, okay, I get that, but it's just like there's
and you got out of Horford.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, but I don't know.
Well, see, this is what happens when Tori, you're kind of like this too. I am in a way as well. But you're making trades to make other trades, right? So
yeah.
He only traded for Draymond Green because he was going to trade Draymond Green somewhere else, and he's only trading for Kyrie because he wanted to trade Kyrie somewhere else, and he's never going to be satisfied with this team. He's just going to keep on trying to trade everyone on his team.
For me, I'm hitting the rebuild button. So I'm like trying to get like assets along with like match salary, like on some decent players as part of the deal, and then I'm trying to trade those guys away because I'm in rebuild mode with the San Antonio Spurs. But like he sought out Landry Shamet, then traded him away. He traded for Robert Williams, right? Was that I don't remember what he got, and then he traded him away. Like I don't know. There's just been a lot. Like he's made 11.
Shake Milton.
Okay, that was the Shake Milton one. He's just made a lot of trades for like role players involving role players that he could keep, but then he keeps flipping them for other role players that aren't any better, aren't really any worse. It's just like we're just like cycling through role players. I don't know. So what do you guys think of like his moves overall?
I did not like. I mean, we'll get to Brooklyn probably later, but I didn't like the Embiid trade for him.
Which he traded Embiid for Kyrie, then traded Kyrie for Chris Paul.
Yeah, and I know there were picks involved and stuff. I just don't like natural point guards on a team with Ben Simmons. Like I'd rather surround Ben Simmons with more of like a. I mean, I don't want to give specific names because I don't want to give away some stuff here. But, like when the Blazers had Brandon Roy, it didn't really work to have like an Andre Miller type guy who also was like a facilitator and needed the ball in his hands and not really like an off the ball threat. And I know Kyrie could have played off the ball and he's not on the team anymore, so it doesn't matter. And Chris Paul played a little bit off the ball this year with SGA and all that stuff. But, like, to me, you want to go – I don't know. You want more shooter-type guards, not guys that need the ball in their hand to succeed as well.
Clays, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I mean, I have no clue the direction of what they're doing right now. And like you said, if you wanted certain players, I think you've traded better players away to get worse players, then traded those worse players to get somebody else that maybe you were targeting, but then I don't know if he's targeting them because then he flips them.
Yeah,
and I'm just,
exactly.
I can't even analyze it because I don't know what the next move is.
Mm-hmm. Like
I don't think Chris Paul. I mean, I know he had a resurgent year, but the amount of money left on his contract and his regression, who knows what that will look like in a year or two.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Draymond Green's already shown regression, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But he just got those guys because he thought they fit. He's trying to say they fit now, but like he just got them so he could he got 2 picks for Kyrie and Chris Paul, and then he used those picks to get like John Collins, and now he's going to try to trade Chris Paul to get something else, and he's never going to. He doesn't have a plan.
He's going for 50 trades. I'm thinking at this point. I think that's his plan, is to have 50 trades to literally make the call center at the NBA office pissed off at him and not answer his calls at this point because
and if you're really high on John Collins, he's going to require. I think next year is his pay year. I think that's the year he's eligible for his rookie poison pill contract, basically. So you're going to have so many guys. Their payroll, their starting lineup alone as constructed is in the luxury tax in 2 years.
I did the math on this, actually. So starting when John Collins' extension is supposed to kick in, that's Chris Paul's last year, I have him projected to pay his starting 5 of Chris Paul, Zach LaVine, Ben Simmons, Draymond Green, John Collins. If that's his starting 5, he's projected to pay them $145 million. That's just his starting 5. His payroll would be like around $180 million, which I'm not sure. We might have to step in and play Philly's owner here because...
Yeah.
What's the tax bill on that?
Especially if they're not winning a title.
Because holy hell, he's trying to run his own owner. He's trying to run his owner bankrupt at this point. Like,
you know how I feel. You know that saying, like, whoever has the ball last wins.
Mm-hmm.
Will win. I feel like his roster is just going to be whatever day we decide to start the season, and that's going to be the roster he gets stuck with. Like, he doesn't even know what his roster is going to be. He's just going to keep trading until we tell him the trades are done and we're starting the season, and then he's going to be. But then as soon as we like open it up to be like, okay, here's a trading window during the season, he's going to just trade this whole roster again. And
thing is, and
I feel like that's
because we plan to simulate this through 2K. The thing is, if you make too many trades in 2K, it hurts your team chemistry, and that actually affects the team itself in 2K. So if he makes a bunch of trades at the trade deadline, he'll have literally no chemistry, and he'll lose some games for it. So it's actually realistic in that way. So that'll be something that's holding him back, but I'm sure he's probably not going to pay any attention to that. He hasn't paid attention to chemistry so far. You got Draymond Green with Ben Simmons, horrible fit on the court. You got Draymond Green with Chris Paul, horrible fit in the locker room.
Draymond Green and John Collins seem like a weird fit. Like, neither of them are really a center, but
I mean, I think Draymond probably isn't going to stay, if I had to guess, just because I think he might realize that Draymond doesn't fit with Ben Simmons. So I think, he may be trying to flip him. I think that is definitely one guy. But, I mean, at this point, everybody on the incoming tab might not be on his team next year at this point.
Yeah. Except for Zach LaVine. Somehow everyone thinks he's like the greatest player in the NBA.
Oh, man.
We've had an argument on Discord on that. We're not even going to get into that because we've already... If you're not in our Discord, you guys should hit me up for a link on Twitter or something, because our Discord has been popping off. Our Discord will pop off during the season now. Our Discord was dead during the season. I didn't really push it, but now that we've done this, I know that our Discord is going to be a lot of fun whenever we get basketball back. Who knows when that'll be. But let's move on to my team, San Antonio Spurs. There we go. We got the slide, and I'm just gonna let you guys analyze this, and then I'll give my thoughts. Unless you want me to give a blurb on my goals here.
Yeah, you explain what you're doing.
So I'm hitting the rebuild button. I had that Aldridge trade to Boston, right? DeJounte Murray's getting like he's 24, so he's still young, but I didn't really. I don't know. I traded him just because I got good value for him. Like, nobody's untouchable, and if I can get good value for a player, I'm trading him. So I got good value on DeJounte Murray, so I traded him. I got Dirk. I traded Dirk White in the 17th pick for the 12th pick, I believe, and I think I got a second rounder in that. I forget exactly what that trade was, but I just felt like that was good value. And Dirk White to me isn't really a point guard. He's more of a shooting guard, but I want to give Lonnie Walker some minutes at the starting two guard next year. So White was expendable. But basically, I'm trying to get good young talent. So I brought in Jarrett Allen, who I was going after from Brooklyn. I brought in Lauri Markkanen. I brought in Seth Curry, who I might try and flip. You know, all the veterans I get, I'm trying to flip just for younger pieces. Just they make no sense on a rebuilding team. You know, so I've already flipped Daniel Tice. I flipped Marcus Smart, who I got back in the Aldridge trade. Flipped a lot of the decent players I got back. I like Mo Wagner. I like Chandler Hutchison. I've actually gotten a lot of the players that I really like in real life. I'm a fan of Mo Wagner. I like Chandler Hutchison coming out of the draft a couple years ago. So I've gotten some players that I like, and I got the 11th pick, 20th pick, and 49th picks right now. So I improved my picks a little bit. So basically, I'm just rebuilding and making moves to just basically tear this thing down and set them up for the future, because San Antonio in real life, they're not going to do anything the next few years. They're a lottery team with Aldridge, with DeRozan, with some decent pieces there. So I think it's time that in real life they need to hit the rebuild button, and that's what I've done here.
Go ahead, Claes.
I mean, I don't know about the same moves, but you're definitely on the mindset I would do with the Spurs. The Spurs are a middling playoff team, probably borderline, between a 10 and 7 seed at best. So with Aldridge and Gay and all those guys, it's definitely time to move on. So to clear all those contracts and get decent value back is nice. I'm not as high on Wagner or Hutchinson as you. I like the Markin and Allen combo up front. I think that could be very effective. And if one of those guys pop off, you're going to have the salary cap room to entice anybody in the league to come there. Texas is a state tax-free state, so guys like to sign in states that they make tens of millions of dollars more by not paying the state tax. So you would be and if Popovich is still there in a couple years, depending on what he wants to do, it's a very enticing move. So, overall, the Spurs are one of the better rebuilds that I've seen from the other teams that are rebuilding as well. But, I don't think it's crazy amazing value, but I think it's all good, solid moves.
Yeah, let me just say this on Wagner. Like, I'm a huge fan of his game just because he's, like, he's super skilled. If you guys haven't watched Wagner, he's actually really fun to watch, in my opinion. But per 36 last year, 37 games. He played 19 minutes a game. But per 36, he had 18 points, 10 rebounds, 2.5 assists. He can shoot threes. He only shot 34% last year, but it was his first time getting legit minutes in the NBA, and I think that'll improve. He shot 57.5% from the field, which was 67% from two, so he can finish. He has a nice little floating hook. He could be a really good bench sixth man. I honestly think he has the potential to be a Christian Wood type of big. Christian Wood kind of blew up this year. I think Wagner could be that next year off the bench. you got him behind Lauri and Jarrett Allen. All of them are 22 or younger. I think maybe Lowry's 23. I don't know, but that's my front court for the future. I'm really happy with that. Yeah, Lowry's 22. So those three guys, my front court for the future, I'm really happy with that. Eric.
Yeah, I like Wagner too. I wouldn't put him in that class.
Wagner?
I think he's going to be
You said Wagner or Walker?
Wagner.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be a star type player or even a top end starter or anything like that. But he's going to be a solid rotation big. I actually really like what you're doing.
Yeah, I got my props.
I like most of the trades you've made. I like your plan. We're very similar with our rebuilding styles. So, like, when we get to my team, I'll basically be saying the same things.
Mm-hmm. Your team's next, so.
But right now, the problem with your team is that you don't have that franchise pillar. And I know that's why you're tearing it down to rebuild, and every team starts with that. So eventually you're going to have to add some sort of star or get lucky on a pick that pops, whether it's like the 11th pick or whatever.
Yeah. There's no way the San Antonio is going to add that pillar unless they get a really high draft pick in the following years. Yeah. So that's kind of what I'm positioning myself to do. I still have DeRozan, who I'm waiting to see if he opts in. If he opts in, I could get, some good value on a trade for him. Like, he'll definitely be available. He'll definitely be a piece that I'll look to trade. So maybe, he should opt in because I'll trade him somewhere he wants to go. That would be my message to him. I'll trade him to somewhere he wants to go. He probably doesn't want to go back to Toronto. They just traded Lowry, so his buddy isn't there anymore. But that's the thing. If he opts out, I'm kind of screwed on that. But if he opts in, I could get even more value out of this. But I'm just positioning, draft is loaded next year. I'm just positioning for that.
Yeah, your team definitely reminds me of the Denver Nuggets 3 years ago.
Yeah.
You're just collecting young talent. Hopefully one of them develops like Jokic did with Denver.
And Larry,
and then hopefully you'll have that guy develop. You'll have the 8 to 10 guys who are all above average NBA players like Denver did. And you can be able then to make micro moves to get big name players with your above average talent. And in 3 to 4 years, you could be a really good team. So I've every one of your trades, I've ranked you as the best person in the trade as in value that you've made. So like I said, I think they've all been good and solid moves.
So I appreciate the props. I'm humbled.
Let me just address 2 things in chat real quick.
Yeah.
So one, players in real life, there's a date after the draft before free agency when they have to decide by. So where a lot of the people are going to wait till that last day to decide. Some of them might say something in between now and then, but yeah, we're just going to leave that up to we're just going to have some fun with it and make it kind of realistic. And then the other thing is Destrom said he knew this was just a scheme that we were all going to give each other props. Do you think I wanted to tell Torrey he's doing a good job, man? I didn't want to tell Torrey. I wanted to sit here and say, dude, you messed up the Spurs. You were doing a terrible job. I wish I could say that, but he's making moves.
Do you think I honestly would mess him up?
Because of you, Destrom, so don't say that,
but honestly, guys, do you think I'd mess up the Spurs? You know what I mean? I know what I'm doing. You know what I mean? I know a little bit about the CBA and how trades work. Just a little bit, I think. So.
Yeah, exactly. I knew you would do a good job with that situation, and we'll get to my team in a second. But I was in a similar situation as you. I just happened to get lucky in the lottery to maybe find more of a franchise pillar than you have at the moment. But other than that, we're in very similar situations where we have some decent, good young players, but not a star to build around or anything. So, yeah.
Let's move on to your team. Your title is I don't know what to title this. I had no idea what to title your slide because I like what you've done, but it's just you're working around the edges. You know what I mean? You're working around the edges. Yep. You've
I still have the ability to make a big move, but I had two goals. One was to cut salary and just try to get rid of a guy like Rozier who still had 2 years on his deal. I wanted to make that into a 1-year deal. Got kind of lucky with that one. And then, guys like Zeller, I just wanted to trade down. I ended up trading him for Dwight Powell and then traded Dwight Powell for Cristiano Felicio, who makes half of what Zeller made. So I cut $7 million off my cap number that way. Malik Monk, I just wanted off my team because he's he can't stay off the steroids or whatever he was taking. So I just wanted to. He was making $5 million, and next year, and I wanted to get rid of him, and I ended up getting a decent young big in Goga, who I think still has a lot of potential, and I'm pretty high on. One kind of like Bogner, I don't know if he's ever going to be a star or anything or a solid starter, but at least he's a rotational big that I can kind of build around, and he's young.
I got to be honest, I was surprised you gave up the 32nd pick as well with Monk to get Batatse. I thought maybe you could have swapped them straight up, but obviously you're the one who negotiated it.
Well, I actually offered that to him. I was trying to be fair because Monk has basically no trade value because he's not good and he's got that drug problem and he was suspended. And
I forgot about the drug problem, so that actually plays into it, yeah.
It's actually an indefinite suspension, so technically, who knows if he's going to be available. But yeah, so I was trying to be realistic, and so I offered the 32nd pick since Goga was just the 18th pick, last June. So I didn't think trading a draft bust like Monk for Goga and saving money was not worth throwing in a second-round pick. So that's why I did it. I probably could have done something with Monk without having to attach a pick, but I really like the idea of building like the real life Spurs where you get players like Goga and hope they develop. And then the Martin twins I hate, so I just want them off my team.
Why you hate
so
the Martin twins, bro? Why you have to split them up like that? Actually, you kept them together, and then the Clippers split them up. So shame on the Clippers.
But yeah,
so to be honest, I don't think they're bad. I think Cody's a lot better than Caleb, but
yeah, obviously, but I don't know. They're like solid, like 9th, 10th rotational players, and those aren't the kind of guys I need on my roster. I need guys who still have the ability to pop. So I thought Kabengele, who was also a first-round pick last year, I just wanted to get, some guys who are young and have potential and some athletic forwards and stuff like that. And then, pretty much all my other trades were just salary related.
Gotcha.
And I still have, guys like PJ Washington, Miles Bridges, who I'm open to trading, Devontae Graham. So I still have some young players I can kind of build around or trade for a better player. But yeah, I'm still not settled on the number 1 pick either. I don't know who I'm picking, and I don't know if I would trade down or not. I'd still be open to those guys.
I was going to say, I'm interested to see what you do with that pick, just based on what you've said about certain prospects in the past. But I just wanted to clear this in chat. This isn't a Patreon thing. I don't know why Dustrom said unless you're a patron, then you can come in the show later, I think. I don't know what he meant by that.
I think he's talking about Clays.
Oh, got you.
That's why Clays is on this, is because he's a Patreon donor.
Oh, donate, he just said that in response to Doge coming in saying, "Can I join this?" Destrom said no, and then Doge says, "You guys already have 30 teams." And then Destrom said, "Unless you're a patron, then you can come in the show later." I think I was like, and then Doge asked for my Patreon. So I thought maybe he might be asking for my Patreon to try and be in this thing. This isn't a Patreon thing. We got Clays on the show because he is a Patreon donor. If you donate $10 a month or more, then you get 1 live stream guest opportunity a month. We owe one to People's Mix this month because he just became, or actually I think it's next month. Next month we owe him one because we do it the month after you donate. But he became a $10 Patreon, so means a lot to me.
Doge Gaming, join the Discord page though for sure.
You can keep track of everything that's happening if you join our Discord. I'll post a Discord link right now, actually. But we have
Dame Dollar's kind of incorrect. This is not a 2K simulation. This is real life. We have the rosters. We're just making trades as GMs and all that kind of stuff. 2K might be used or will likely be used because that's the most realistic way to simulate how the teams did, but it's not.
That's more of an add-on. That's not like what this is based on. So.
And I know a lot of people have been thinking in terms of 2K because I know there's a certain player that I could take with the number 1 pick that everyone nose blows up in 2K, so they're all wanting to get him, and that's what we wanted to avoid having happen.
And I mean, like, the draft class, I'm going to edit the ratings to be realistic. The ratings progression, I'm actually developing a spreadsheet with a number of different factors, and, like, it's going to be, like, the rating progression is going to be random. Now I have to figure out how to do that in a way where you guys are like, oh, you're cheating or whatever for your team, but the thing is, I want my team to lose, so I'm not going to, I'm in rebuild mode, but, like, I want to make the ratings progression and the simulation as realistic as possible, so therefore, even though we do hope to do a 2K sim, you should be making moves based on real life, because I'm going to make the 2K sim emulate real life more than the 2K sim already does, because it's not the most realistic thing. So I'm going to put things in place to make it as realistic as possible. So you shouldn't even be thinking about the 2K sim. You should be thinking about real life and making moves that way, and not be making moves off 2K or even thinking about 2K. So
I also loved your idea of taking the badges off too.
Yeah, so. I actually already did that with the roster. And then, like, I readjusted the ratings and that type of stuff. So the People's Mix, don't even say bruh, because I know you've been making moves based on 2K, and I've said from the start, don't make moves based off 2K. Like, we might not even do 2K. Make moves based on what, like, you would really do in real life if you were the GM of the team. That's what I've said this whole time. Yeah. So, I mean, like, it's not like I didn't give you guys a heads up, you know what I mean? Because there's been things with, like, where guys have gotten a little bit, oh, you're agreeing with me, okay. I just saw you say bruh, so I thought you were saying bruh to me. But, yeah, we do hope to do 2K and, like, simulate in the future. But, yeah. Doge, if you want my Patreon info, I'll post it. Just the way you can help me out, get a couple perks. I do want to start doing, like, one reaction a week. I've been caught up with this mock off season. I know I released an upload schedule, but this mock off season has been crazy, so I've kind of been caught up with this, so I do want to get to that now. The trades are slowly starting to slow down now. There is my Patreon link for anybody that's interested.
People are running out of guys they can trade with other guys.
Exactly.
They're just waiting for the June 30th free agency to open up to be able to trade everybody again.
Yeah.
I know, like, the first couple mornings I woke up and it said like 500 new messages on all the threads. And then today it was like 10.
Yeah, it's very nice, huh? But Doge, we have, because Doge, I just gave him the Discord link. We have like a general thread. So when, for Blazers basketball, whatever, when Blazers, when the NBA season starts back up, whenever that is, I do want that Discord to be active, just, watching games together, that type of thing. Just give us more of a sense of community. That's been something that I've liked about this. It just gets us familiar with each other a little bit more and gives us a sense of community. Some people can learn stuff about the CBA, about certain players, about that type of stuff. So I think that's a really good thing. There's a lot of good outcomes from this mock off season.
Yep.
But I like what you've done with this, Eric.
I'm trying to be patient and not making a move just to make a move with some of my younger guys.
Which is smart.
Gonna wait, and if nothing happens, I'm fine with running them this year and, maybe taking offers at the trade deadline or something. But, I'm not really in any rush to do anything right now.
You're not grabbing a free agent this class. You're not in a move to do anything. So you have the luxury of being patient.
It looks like I might have about $40 million in cap space this year.
Hey man, I'm chasing 80, so so get on my level.
Yeah, we
to go with your young front court.
I'll definitely be available to facilitate some salary cap dumps.
Yep, I need Captain to help me out a little bit. I offered him literally the best. I feel like it was the best deal for anybody that I've offered, and he said no. I was surprised. I was kind of hurt. It was a phenomenal trade. He was basically getting good players for free, and man said no. Actually, honestly, I might have said no if I was him too, just out of patience. But it was a great trade, I thought. But,
all right, let's not talk about specifics though.
I'm not. I'm not. I was surprised. I thought I had like the most genius trade idea, and it was like involving multiple teams, and we were like, yeah, okay, cool. There's no way he'll say no, and then he said no, and no. Anyway.
People's Mix in chat says he got me when I'm ready to make a trade.
He's got so much cap space.
He's always down.
Yeah. Oh man. The over under. There's just no way you guys are gonna make a trade together, man. You would get too impatient of trying to negotiate with him. I feel like. He negotiates
We've
hard.
negotiated a little bit, but yeah.
He negotiates. He negotiates hard. I respect it. Anyway, let's move on to Clayton's team.
All right.
So I split him up into 3 different slides for him. Actually, I forgot to add the hotkey, so let me do it right now. So that was trade 1. That was my, and I figured I'd do this just so you could see like a couple of the trades. So that was trade 1. He traded Kyrie for Joel Embiid. Clays, let me hear your thoughts on all of this.
Well, first of all, I mean, I wasn't going into this mock-off season planning on moving any of my big couple players in Kyrie and KD or anybody like that. But like Joel Embiid, I think his value is so high in the league I think he is one of the few players in the league that could be traded for like 4 first-round picks kind of guy, and a young talent and whatever. Kyrie, I'm not a Kyrie fan. I mean, I know you like the Kevin Durant is pissed, on here or whatever. But
I tried to put it in Whitehead. I didn't know how long it was going to take you to dose it.
So, I mean, and not to mention, I'm really high on Josh Richardson as well. I think he's an up-and-coming wing that a lot of people don't really hear about because he plays defense, and he's not he's not Zach LaVine scoring, so everybody's not excited about him. But I think Embiid and Josh Richardson for Kyrie and a couple young guys. I mean, Jared Allen is nice, and the 19th pick in this draft for the Nets does nothing, and that Brooklyn pick in 2022 is protected for top 8, I believe, or something. So if I'm terrible or somehow fall off the cliff.
Yeah, Clays was one of the first people to protect his picks. So good job.
Yeah, and it's funny that you're talking about People's Mix in his negotiations, because he was all about like, I ain't doing anything for less than 2 unprotecteds. And I'm just like, dude, I'm not going to give you an unprotected pick, let alone 2. And I mean, so yeah, I Durant could be unhappy. I mean, I know Tori and I talked about, him being buddies with Kyrie and stuff, but I mean, I'm not necessarily sold that he went to New York City to play with Kyrie. I think he wants to win and be in New York City and kind of be the lead of the team, not in the shadow of a Steph Curry, who was already established there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know Embiid's good, but I know he's a superstar, but he's not established in Brooklyn. So, I mean, still Kevin Durant leading the team to potential finals.
The Doge thought I was 5'8". That's funny. I mean, like, this is a great trade value-wise, I think. But Eric, didn't KD really want to pair up with Kyrie? Wasn't that like a very big part of him going to Brooklyn?
Whatever team they signed with, they were signing together. So whether it was the Knicks or the Nets or whatever, they were a pair deal.
Yeah,
so
really
he
friends.
would never.
Like, I mean, so
Yeah.
The one thing with this is you gotta be careful. If Brooklyn struggles next year, if that team doesn't gel, if they struggle, you'd have the chance of possibly KD wanting out of there. He's mad because they traded Kyrie, I think.
To be fair, Clays did try to trade KD and we didn't allow it. So for those that don't know, the Clippers and the Nets had a deal involving KD for Paul George, and it was at a time when it was just getting way too crazy with unrealistic trades. So we put the kibosh on that because we don't think the Clippers, they were in a situation too where Paul George and Kawhi both went to the Clippers because Paul George was traded there. So we allowed this trade at the beginning because we didn't know that a lot of these trades would be so bad, and this was actually a fair trade despite Kyrie not going to be traded from the Nets. So like if we would have started over, we would have made Kyrie and KD untradeable from the beginning, and this trade would have never happened. But to be fair to Clays, we did put the kibosh on him trading KD, and then
yeah. And I mean, he made a good
but
trade
we didn't want to ruin two situations.
Yeah.
So we already ruined the Nets splitting up Durant and Kyrie. We're not going to split up Paul George and Kawhi on top of that because,
And granted, I think they're better after this. I think they're better after the moves they made. I can get into the second trade. I got like the projected lineups too for him. But like I mean, like I think value wise, he got the best player in the deal. Josh Richardson and Jared Allen are pretty even. Then he gave up some picks. You know what I mean? Like he gave up a couple probably late firsts to get Joel Embiid over Kyrie Irving. Like that's definitely worth it, I think. So value-wise.
The other thing, what I want to say about Kyrie too, real quick, is it is possible that the Nets got sick of his crap because he's a really tough person to deal with, and he says stupid things, and so.
I mean, I'm sick of his crap, so that's
it is somewhat realistic that this whole season they were like, you know what, he's been like pouting and a baby, and I don't care if he came here with KD, like let's get him out of here, and now he's hurt again, and it's not his knee, it's his shoulder now, so now he's got two major injury concerns, and I think it's somewhat realistic that they could have just pulled the plug on it. It wouldn't have happened, but like. That's a lot more realistic, I think, than them trading Kevin Durant.
And that was another thing too.
Like, is one of the most best players in the NBA.
I really don't like Kyrie. I didn't like what he did in Boston. I didn't like what he did in Cleveland. I'm, like you said, I'm sick of watching him, pout and or say he's going to do one thing and then does very two-faced. I mean, he's just not a person I would want on my team. I mean, talent-wise, he's amazing, but. Shoulder injury now, and he's having surgery on that. Some guys don't ever shoot the same after shoulder surgery. I mean, or it takes a couple years. I mean, look how Myers Leonard didn't shoot for 2 years almost. I mean, so it's when that's your game is to shoot, and who knows that that's going to be the same. I'm just not a fan.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go where People's Mix is going and say he's an awful teammate. He just seems, I mean, like he's a bit moody, you know what I mean? But like he's also human, but also he has to be a better leader because he's not. I don't think he's a good leader, and maybe in real life that's part of him being with Durant, something that makes you nervous because neither one of those guys are known to be the best leaders. So how's that locker room? That's kind of why they brought in DeAndre Jordan. Which is also gone in the next trade. But yeah, I mean, Kyrie definitely makes you nervous. As a Blazer fan, I'm glad Dame is Dame. At the his personality. I'm glad we have somebody like that leading our team instead of somebody you have to worry about like Kyrie. It's not like I don't want to make it an indictment towards Kyrie because I think I think you've got to avoid being too hard on him because it's nothing that like is obvious or it's nothing that is he's not getting in trouble off the court and it's not something that is like glaring, but you hear all these things and he'll say some stuff in some post-game interviews that just make you question his leadership ability.
And we have People's Mix who just a couple of days ago before he retraded Kyrie Irving was talking about how great his team was and how great of a fit Kyrie was, and now he's in here trashing Kyrie and saying what a horrible teammate he is and all that stuff. And that's exactly what we were talking about his team earlier.
Yeah, at this point, I don't know why people would keep making moves with him. You know what I mean? Like he getting played if you have a guy that's like touting the guys he has and like, okay, I'll make a trade for him. You make a trade for one of the guys he has, and then all of a sudden People's Mix is there trashing the guy you just traded for from him. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
but they should know. Like, I mean, if
no, I know that's
if I was in a trade negotiation and people's mix was like, oh, Kyrie's the best player in the NBA, I wouldn't be like, oh, really? I need to trade for him then. I would be like, dude, shut up. I'm not trading with you. Go away.
I'll give you 6 unprotected picks.
So, like literally 2 seconds after that trade gets submitted, he's in the Discord thread laughing, saying, "Ha, Kyrie sucks. He's horrible. He's a horrible teammate." And then you look like you got played. But yeah. So anyway, let's move on to the next trade. You have interesting trade here, trading Spencer Dinwiddie, DeAndre Jordan, the 55th pick, and a second round pick. So basically, 2 probably late seconds. I think I can't talk all of a sudden. 2 probably late seconds because I think Toronto will be good next year. DeAndre Jordan and Spencer Dinwiddie for Jrue Holiday. Give me your thoughts regarding this trade, Clays.
So Dinwiddie I like a lot, but he does not fit in with a team that needs to shoot the ball. I mean, he's a 30% three-point shooter at best. And if we're going to go run the ball through KD and Embiid down low or whatever, you got to have at least a couple guys who can shoot. I'm not saying Jrue Holiday is an elite shooter or anything, but I'll take a 36% three-point shooter who's going to hit shots somewhat consistently and play all NBA type defense in my mind. I think Jrue Holiday and Josh Richardson backcourt would be sick defensively, and they both shoot about 36% from threes. So, I mean, I know Richardson shot a little bit lower this past season, but, I mean, as a career, he's 36 point something, I think. So
I think you just gotta hope that Jrue Holiday doesn't regress to how he was the couple years before this past season, because 3-point percentage the last 4 years he was like 36%, 34%, 32.5%, and 36%. So he's kind of, 36% his ceiling, his floor, maybe he's only shooting 32, 33%. Definitely
but it's still better than Dinwiddie.
Yeah.
And I think the defense upgrade to be on that team. I mean, you taught Jrue Holiday, Josh Richardson, and Embiid on the floor at the same time defensively, and then
Durant's a good defender too.
Yeah,
and then you throw in Durant, who's one of the best two-way players in the generation, and that he's developed into, and then you throw in whether it's a Taurean Prince, a Karis LeVert, or and there still could be moves with those last two. I'll do my plug. Got a couple guys who might potentially be an option for some people looking to pick up some young talent. But
can't really trade them right now, so it's kind of prone.
Yep. So I'll do I heard Eric Brandt do his plug for some guys available, so I'll throw mine in. But
I did write 76ers get. I meant to write Pelicans get, so that's my bet on that. But yeah, the Pelicans got Dinwiddie and DeAndre Jordan and them. That was a team that I forgot to put in on these slides, but we can kind of address teams.
And Jordan was kind of a salary filler because I mean Jrue Holiday makes a lot, and then Jordan's also kind of in the he came there to play with Kyrie and Durant, and I'm already broke up Kyrie, so he doesn't really make as much sense potentially. And then those both second round picks, I don't see those being anything worth anything. So, I mean, like John Hollinger, I was talking about this the other day. He always talks about how he basically doesn't value any second round pick after 45 because the hit value is so low on them that it's if it's the difference between getting a deal done or not, you do it in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say there isn't any value. I'd kind of disagree with that with hauling around that. I wouldn't say there's not any value. There's been some good players picked in the last 15.
Value,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, like
tell that to Jokic and Manu and.
I mean, well, you just look at the Nuggets. Jokic and Monte Morris were drafted, in that range. I think maybe Jokic was like 41 or something, but that's like borderline 45. You know what I mean? So
sure,
like Monte Morris is a really good backup point guard. So the good teams will use those picks productively, and there's a lot of teams out there that'll just waste them on European players that don't come over, or, guys that just aren't good. But
that being said, though, we had some crazy stuff like the number 60 pick being traded for the unprotected first and stuff like that. So that's not what we're trying to say.
That was the 60th pick.
We're not trying to say that the number 60 pick is worth that much.
Well,
we're just saying,
I mean, that's like
it is possible to find diamonds in the rough.
And for every one diamond, there's usually 10 to 15 failures. I mean, and you're lucky to find one great second round pick on the back half of the second round every 15 years, maybe that you draft one. And so, I mean, it's not that they're not worthless, but if it's the difference between getting a deal done or not, then I'm more prone to doing it.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I think when
just with this mock real quick, you guys will be able to sign undrafted free agents. You guys will be able to sign guys to two-way contracts. We'll be able to do that with this mock offseason. So why would you trade for the 60th pick? You know, like the guy you probably would want there most likely isn't going to actually be the one who gets drafted there. You can sign him as an undrafted free agent. So
exactly. Yep.
Anyway, Eric.
Well, the thing is, the reason why I don't agree with Hollinger is because to me that's basically admitting that he's not good at finding diamonds in the rough, right?
True.
So I like mid-second round picks and stuff because there's some guys who I think are kind of under the radar, or in a lot of cases, like we just mentioned, Manu Ginobili and Jokic, who are really well-known foreign players, but you just take a chance on them, and if they turn into a star player, then you're like set for several years without even having to get a lottery pick. And so like I kind of like believing in my ability to find those kind of diamonds and roughs, or at least trying to, versus, but I also agree that if it's a difference between getting a good player like Drew Holiday and you have to throw in a second round pick, it's not really going to be that detrimental to your future or anything.
Yeah. I will say this about Brooklyn right now. You got Joe Harris there as their projected shooting guard starter right now, but he's a free agent, so that's why he has an asterisk, right? If you don't count their free agents, they have 6, borderline 7 rotation level players right now. If I counted correctly. You'd start Karis LeVert at the 2, I guess, and he's not a great shooter. He makes more sense off the bench. And then you got Taurean Prince and Kurucs is like.
You keep saying Karis LeVert's not a good shooter, but I mean, look at his numbers. I mean, he shot what, 37%, I think, this year.
I don't hate LeVert. I was really high on LeVert. He shot 38% this year. First career, he's a 34% 3-point shooter. Shot 31% last year. Under 35 the year before, 32% his rookie year. So that's 1 out of the 4 years where he shot better than below league average.
No, I understand that. I'm not trying to tout him as a shooter, but I don't think he's not Spencer Dinwiddie shooting.
Yeah, I mean, he's also, only shot 41% from the field. Like, he's not particularly efficient. That's why I'm not a fan of him. I mean, you look at his true shooting percentage the last 3 years, 52.5%, 50.9%, 50.9%. So he's not particularly efficient for as many shots as he ends up taking. He's streaky. I don't know. He'll win you a game by having like 50 or something, like he did right before the league went, got suspended. But he'll have a lot of games where he'll shoot you out of a game.
But he wasn't playing next to Kevin Durant and Joel Embiid as well.
Well,
I mean,
that's
he was being forced to be the primary option the last 2 years. I know, because I mean, Kyrie played 20 games this year or something like that.
Yeah.
So he's had to try to be the number one option in Brooklyn. But number 2 actually, D'Angelo Russell was number 1. But
yeah, but that's my whole point. Is he's like not a natural fit off the ball. Like, he's a guy who wants the ball in his hands, kind of needs the ball in his hands, even though he's not that effective when he has the ball in his hands. Like, off the ball, I don't think he's like just a great fit next to a bunch of guys that need the ball. If you had and that's the thing, you also have, Holiday and Richardson, like, they're good enough shooters to like space the floor given their defense, but if both of those guys have the potential to possibly take a bit of a step back or be like 33% shooters, then you throw LeVert in there, the spacing might not be enough. You just got some questionable, like not guys that you can count on shooting the ball. But just from a depth standpoint, if you lose, like you got Joe Harris, there's a free agent, Wilson Chandler, right? If you're not able to, Wilson Chandler wasn't that good last year, and then if you lose Joe Harris, your bench, you got Torian Prince, Kuruks, and who else? You know.
It's definitely it's a work in progress, but I mean we still have a draft pick, we still have free agency coming up. There's a lot of guys that I'm targeting to fill out that rotation, and it's if I'm a veteran in the NBA and I want to win, and we've seen that with Miami, Golden State, San Antonio. When you have a dynasty, veterans will come, and they're kind of banking on that fact that people will want to sign to play with Durant, Embiid, Drew Holiday, Josh Richardson, and be in potential for the title.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's still
they can sign some shooters.
Yeah. Hey, let me just say this to chat. You guys don't tell me what to do. Don't post in all casts telling me what to do. Come on, man. Like, we'll talk about the Nets as long as we want to talk about the Nets. Like, we got Clay's here, so we're talking to him about his team. We talked about the Celtics more than anybody, Destrom. So I'm not. Don't tell me nobody gives an F about this. OMG, get off of it. Like, come on, man. Don't be. That's a little toxic. Eric or Clays, you want to add anything more on the Nets or what?
No.
Okay.
We good.
Before Destrom like sues me or something, let's move on to the Magic. So, honestly, I'm just gonna start off by saying this. Yo, Destrom disliked the stream. Wow, bro. Wow, man. Come on. Why you dropping me dislikes, man? I'm just kidding. I assume it wasn't Destrom. I assume it was a Pinwheel Empire like fan or something like that. Anyway, a magical offseason for the Magic. Just look at this outgoing and look at this incoming before we start breaking stuff down. They traded out Fultz, Aaron Gordon, Bamba, Terrence Ross, Al-Farouq Aminu in the 15th pick. They got back Wendell Carter Jr., Colin Sexton, Norman Powell, Gary Trent Jr., Trevor Ariza, the number 6 pick, and 3 unprotected second-round picks. Now, they did end up making a trade after I made this graphic, and we'll jump into that trade after this. But before they ended up making this trade, this is a great haul, and they also made a lot of trades before we started making people protect their picks. So you got 3 unprotected picks coming in there, and they traded up from 15 to 6. And like prospect wise, player for player wise, I probably would have done without all the picks. I probably would have done the player for player swap. They did benefit off of trading Terrence Ross and Al-Farouq Aminu for Robert Covington, PJ Tucker, and an unprotected Houston 2022 first, and then they flipped Covington for Ariza, Gary Trent Jr., and a future Portland first, which isn't included on this graphic because I didn't have the space for that.
You don't have Tucker on there either.
Yeah, I mean, Tucker, I feel like they might flip, but I mean, there were so many assets. I tried to just put the best assets they got up there because I didn't have the space to put up all that. They got a ton back for everything they gave up. So Ash is running the Magic. What are your guys' thoughts? Let me let Eric start. Let me hear Eric's thoughts on this.
What's Eric?
Clay, not the Clay's one. You, not the Clay's one.
Yeah, they fleeced every one of their trades until I'll get to that in a second. But I loved they basically traded the number 15 pick and Gordon and Fultz for number 2 and Julius Randle, and then they ended up getting another first for Randle. So that was 2 like tremendous moves. That's the type of stuff that like Tori and I would do, you know. So props on that. And then they fleeced the Cleveland Cavaliers. Sorry, Dizzy D. But they traded back from 2 to 6 and picked up Colin Sexton and an unprotected future pick. Like you said, it would have been different if we had the new rules in place. But
I kind of wish we did.
But so I was thinking, like, man, he is doing great. He still has, I a little bit of future assets, like he still has Jonathan Isaac, and then he's loaded with picks and stuff like that. But then he had to go and trade Vucevic and Gary Trent Jr. today, and basically got back a bunch of crap players. I mean, they're okay, but they're not like, they don't really fit the direction I thought he was going with the team or why he would do that. Aaron Holiday showed some things this year. So I guess if he pans out, it might be okay. And I know he was just trying to get out of Vucevic, but I mean, the Magic would have been a playoff team this year. They've been a playoff team the year before. It's not like they were terrible or like trending in a bad direction or anything. But yeah, I really liked the way he was going until today.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I mean, value-wise, prior to today's move, he's gotten more value than he's given up by far compared to anybody else in the league. He's literally won every trade by getting all those high draft picks and unprotected picks down the road, especially from teams like Houston, who he's got Houston's number one pick in what's expected to be the loaded draft, not to mention Cleveland's. So
Cleveland's going to be terrible then too. Yeah.
So he's got, two potential top 5 picks there in a potentially loaded draft if the CBA changes things and they allow high schoolers back in the draft in 2022, which is what seems like the push. So in sheer long-term value-wise, yeah, he's set up probably better than any franchise that we have because he's got those. I mean, I don't know about maybe Toronto, but I don't know. But he's got 3 unprotecteds in that big draft. He's got the number 6 this year. He's got Carter Jr. He's got Jonathan Isaac. He's got a lot of stuff. But if he wanted to make the playoffs and be a force this year, definitely had to keep Vucevic. I liked all of his moves until that trade. If he's totally just going to 2022 as his, or I should say 2023 season as his chance to start blossoming, then it makes sense. So I don't dislike the trades, but I wouldn't have given up any more future assets with Vucevic to get off of that contract. Because I didn't like
giving up Trent in that trade.
Yeah.
Like players like that.
Or the pick, or the other pick he traded away in that trade. I think Vucevic alone wouldn't command having to attach a pick to get off of his contract.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that Vucevic trade either. I think he was making all the right moves until he made that Vucevic trade. I mean, he just traded Bamba. Like he was still going to be a playoff team. He even after the Covington trade, which I thought he got good value on. I thought, bro, Destrom, why are you posting our Discord to move? Anyway, I'm trying to find the trade. All right, so yeah, I mean, just so I can look at it and remember. I mean, Aaron Holiday is a good backup point guard, but they got Colin Sexton there already, so you don't really need Aaron Holiday. He's not big enough. I don't think either Sexton or Holiday are big enough where one of them can play the 2. So that is a concern there. And then they get back some role players. They didn't really get back any future assets where I thought, okay, if they're going to trade Vucevic, they need to get future assets. They already got a lot. They can kind of,
exactly
build upon what they've done. And instead they traded Vucevic and got back a future asset and Holiday that doesn't really fit. He's a young player. TJ Leaf hasn't really done anything. And then they got back some role players, which have less value than Vucevic. So I just didn't really understand that, to be honest.
He's saying he's trying not to make the playoffs.
Gotcha.
But
I thought you could have gotten a little bit better package back in terms of picks and young players.
The only thing I'll say to that is that I know there's been a lot of centers that have been shopped that are in that price range, and it's hard to pull off what you pulled off. I mentioned with the Aldridge thing. The Whiteside contract and the Drummond contract last year, those contracts, it's hard to get value for what they're actually should be worth when there's so many quality centers at cheaper options. It's just difficult.
And I mean, he needed to move him at some point. It just didn't have to be now.
Right.
He's got the draft.
And not for that.
And not for that. People want Vucevic's talents. I mean, that dude's a great NBA player. He's an all-star. I mean, he's been an all-star before. He's still at that same talent level. He hasn't fallen off or something like that. He's not old. He's not.
He is saying that people hated his contract.
And they hate it right now because they can't trade half of their teams because everybody's restricted. Is everybody's free agents?
True.
Perfect example. He could have easily, now that the trade's been made, it doesn't matter. He could have easily gotten Karis LeVert and a first-round pick or something like that for Vucevic. For me, I mean,
really,
he could have got that
Vucevic
kind of value.
can't play next to Embiid though.
No, I'm just saying. I'm talking value-wise though. Like from a contending team,
or maybe if the Embiid trade didn't happen.
Gotcha.
Or exactly, if the Embiid trade didn't happen, he definitely could have gotten a Jared Allen and a first round pick and or Karis LeVert, a first round pick. And once I got those poison pill contracts off my books and things like that. So he maybe right now that was the best value he could get. But if he would have waited until when free agency starts or even during the season next year, because he's not going to compete for a top 4 seed in the playoffs either way right now.
I mean, Ash, here's a question for you. You don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but how many people did you work on negotiating with on a Vucevic trade? If it was 5 people, that's only a sixth of the league.
I know he's posted at least 50 times anyone interested in Vooch in the Discord, but like Clay's just mentioned, we're at a point right now where everyone's traded half their roster. You can't combine salaries to get up to $28 million to do trades with a lot of teams. So even if you wanted to, but that's why you wait till later on in the offseason when you can start trading players again aggregated.
He said at least 10 people, which I wouldn't have traded for Vucevic because I'm in rebuild mode. But if I was a contending team needed a center, I definitely would have. There is also the thing is a lot of contending teams already have a center entrenched. But I think he could have been more patient and waited for something he likes, or maybe you wait even until the trade deadline next year.
Somebody who doesn't is Philly.
Yeah, I mean, Philly could have used a shooting big, but they can't match his contract because all their players are players that they've traded for, so they can't match it. So that's the problem. He would have made a lot of sense for Philly, but they, you probably gotta wait until I don't even know. Don't even bring up Philly. I just got a headache.
I just think people undervalue Vucevic's skill set and his. I mean, he's not that far below what Jokic is in my mind. Yeah. I mean, I remember. So I only get to go to very few Blazer games because I'm not in town very often. And I brought my nephews to a game a couple years ago, and we were playing the Magic, and Vucevic in the first half just lit us up, and we couldn't do anything to stop him inside or outside. And then, of course, Portland was just the much more talented team and won the game. But I mean, that dude is.
Yeah, I think I remember that game.
Nice.
Yeah. But overall, maybe the best team in the mock offseason so far. Even after that, I mean, I'm kind of mentally throwing Vucevic up onto the outgoing in my mind on this graphic, and he didn't get anybody back in the incoming that I'd even maybe put on this graphic other than Aaron Holiday, who I don't like as a fit. So if you put Nikola Vucevic up on outgoing, it would look a lot more even. Still not even, but just because of the first round picks. But he also struck the iron while it was hot when he could get those unprotected picks without us vetoing that. So. If he was making those trades now, wouldn't quite get the same value, so that is part of it. But he definitely made some solid moves there. Let's. Anything else on the Magic you guys want to say?
Oh.
All right, let's hit the Bucks. We got the Milwaukee Bucks, which they've sent out Brook Lopez, Ilyasova, DJ Wilson, Robin Lopez, the 20th pick, future Clippers second. Incoming, they got Bjelica, Daniel Tice, Rashawn Holmes, Terrence Ross, and 2 future second-round picks. I like what Milwaukee has done. Like, let me just say this. Milwaukee is not an easy team to have in this, because if you have a team in this, you're going to want to make trades just for the fun of it, right? But realistically, like, Milwaukee is so good that any moves they would make, you'd probably look at it like, oh, why are they making moves? They're so good already, you could make the argument, Brook Lopez really helps their synergy or something. Look at how good they are with him. Why would they trade him? But like, you get the Bucks in this, like, it's almost like a lose-lose situation. Either you sit out and don't do anything, don't have fun with them, or you make some trades, and even if they're, decent value-wise, you get people questioning why would Milwaukee, make a trade. So with that context in mind, I actually think he's done a really good job, because just in terms of like individual players, I think he's like improved the overall talent that he has. He brings in, and he also brings in smart players too at the same time. You bring in Bielitsa and Tice; those are 2 really smart players. Can kind of fit in with that team in real life. I think Bielitsa is a floor spacer, Tice is like a center, rim protector, just a overall very, heady player, smart guy. And then Rashawn Holmes, I don't know which center he plans on starting, but like Rashawn Holmes off the bench at center is terrific, I think, for a backup big energy guy that can be a lob target, be athletic, be a dump-off finisher. You get Terrence Ross in there too, which is intriguing. Like, overall, talent-wise, I think he's done a good job. I forgot to put that he got the 35th pick back for the 20th pick in that trade. So it's not like he completely traded out of the draft, just traded down. That was a trade where he traded, he ended up getting Magruder, then he traded Magruder in the 20th pick he traded Magruder and 20th pick to me for Daniel Tyson, the 35th pick. I thought that was a good win-win trade for both of us. I think he's done a good job. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Clays.
Well, I know, Tori and I had a nice discussion about the other night. I'm not a fan of breaking up what's working. And, we can argue all day about why Milwaukee is better, but they've been better with Brook Lopez, and that's all we know. So I just don't like that, getting rid of him in that move. And if I was the Bucks GM, it would suck having them, because the only thing I would have made a move on is the 20th pick and maybe DJ Wilson.
You would have done more. I know you would have done more. You traded Kyrie, so you would have done more.
I'm saying but Kyrie doesn't work in my mind. Like, he hasn't worked anywhere he's gone. He got 1 title with LeBron. I mean, he usually makes teams worse. Whereas, I mean, we know what Milwaukee is right now. They're a 65+ win team that doesn't need to retool at this point. I mean, I thought they kind of had a little L at the trading deadline in real life, not trading that 20th pick for something, but maybe just the right thing didn't come by.
But that's the the context I provided at the start of this is, any moves they make, you could look at in the lens of, oh, they were so good, and they shouldn't be making moves, so it's automatically a bad move. So that leads me to this question. You had the 35th pick on the right to incoming. And let's just say, you take the Bucks out of the equation. You just have the assets on the left, assets on the right, with that 35th pick added. Which asset pool would you take for just overall, in general?
Again, like I said, being Milwaukee.
No Milwaukee, though. Like, in general, like, which asset pool would you take?
Yes. Especially if Giannis becomes a free agent next year, which could definitely happen. I want the asset pool on the right. Of course.
Yeah.
And it's a no-brainer.
I'm just taking Milwaukee out of the equation because he ended up with Milwaukee and wanted to make moves, and Milwaukee realistically shouldn't make moves, but I don't think you can blame somebody for making moves on this, because you want to have fun with this thing. So that's why I was taking them out of the equation, just asking you about the asset pool without the team.
For sure. Sheer asset and future potential, I definitely want what's on the right.
Yeah. So with that in mind, I think he's done a good job.
So to kind of your point, Tori, when you look at it as a whole, I kind of agree with you. But like, it's been like head scratching move and then good move to follow it up to like cover for that. So I didn't really like switching out Brook Lopez for Holmes, as we've discussed before. We don't really need to get into that. Yeah,
I'd tell you, I think both of those are better than Lopez and Ilyasova, to be honest.
And then I think he traded for like Zeller or something, and then, I forgot who he traded for Zeller. Didn't he have Zeller at one point? I think every team's had Zeller, but then he traded Zeller for Terrence Ross, and I'm like, wow, that's a great trade. And then he picks up Daniel Tice, who I think is a great fit on that team. So when you look at Bielitsa, Tice, and Holmes together, I like that trio. I didn't like it in place of Brook Lopez, but now that you have three decent players, I like it. Terrence Ross, I think, is a good fit off the bench for them. So yeah, I overall, I like what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't Milwaukee, if it was a different team that, if this was, say, the Kings, and the Kings had traded out, the asset pool on the left or the asset pool on the right, we'd be applauding them more just because it wouldn't be a team that was already good.
Exactly.
So I'm just trying not to hold that against them.
The Kings did trade half the people on the right.
Well, it was a hypothetical, like,
I'm just kidding.
You get what I'm saying. Like, if this wasn't Milwaukee, if it was like a middling team, you're just gonna shut this down. Whatever. You get what I'm saying. And
I never expected the Kings to get older in this draft.
Yeah, they're not on this slide, but.
The thing about it, though, is I completely agree with you, but we're talking about a team that could have maybe won the title this year, and not a team that's just rebuilding. And so yeah.
So we'll move on.
I can't take the Bucks out of it.
Yeah. We'll move on to the next team. Let me just say this, though. I like defended Destrom so hard, so hard. And he has literally basically been roasting me in chat. Like, get the hell off of Brooklyn. Why are you on Brooklyn so long? Get off of him. Like, get to the, all caps, get to the team that the non-involved people care about. Oh, no, that was Trevin. You guys got the same picture. Same sort of colored picture. Trevin, watch yourself, bro. But no, Destrom was like giving me he's been giving me crap this whole team. He's like, what is this, Google Slides? Like, bro, you see what I've done with my stream? Of course not Google Slides. Like, come on, man. You want me to prove it? Here, I'll take out the damn background. Like, I know. I mean, like, this dude just giving me crap all damn show, and I defended him with my life. I feel betrayed right now, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Like, come on, man.
He said he was legit curious.
Oh, man. I mean, I just feel like I've been roasted by the guy that I was put my pride on the line for to defend him. So anyway, moving on. Destrom, I'm hurt, bro. We got the Chicago Bulls, who have done a ton. I don't even...
Shout out to Solar Money Yeet for coming in late.
Yeah. So I'll let one of you guys start off with this, because there's a lot here. But I don't know I think he's done a solid job, I think. I don't know. It's kind of hard to tell because there's so much here.
I mean, we've gone in detail in Discord about the Zach LaVine talk.
Yeah.
So I thought he did well from what he got from that. But, I mean, I like Cam Reddish as a prospect. But, I mean, and got a couple picks. I don't even know how to look at this.
Yeah, see, that's
the Bulls are tough because I completely understand him just resetting, but then you like give up way too much for Andre Drummond. And,
yeah,
I just like it didn't all fit, And I did like getting out of Levine's, but the way people were talking about him in chat, like I feel like he could have gotten like 8 unprotected first round.
I wish I had LaVine on the Nets, man. I could trade him for whatever.
And I didn't really like what was going on with the Bulls team to begin with, but then I felt like he kind of gave away some of his guys like Markkanen and Wendell Carter Jr. for it was all right.
He got the 18th pick, the 22nd pick,
I guess.
Keldon Johnson, Romeo Langford, Rudy Gay.
Maybe it was more just the Wendell Carter trade. I don't feel like he did well in that one. I felt like Carter had a lot more value than Markkanen. And then
as a guy who traded for Markkanen, I'd probably agree with that. I didn't need a center, and so if I don't even know if I made that trade before, but yeah, I wasn't a fan of that Carter trade. That Carter was like the one guy from his starting five that I thought he should definitely hang on to.
But he still has Kobe White, and so Kobe White, Cam Reddish. He's got the second pick now in the draft.
Up from 3 to 2, got the 18th.
That was terrible. I thought trading, giving up like a future first just to move up one spot in this draft with the kind of difference in prospect between 2 and 3 not really being very good. I thought that was like one of the worst moves in the game.
It's a mixed bag. So like overall, I don't think he's done a bad job. If he didn't trade Carter and like he didn't give up that future first in the Porter Drummond trade, I think he would get a really solid grade. Like he'd probably get a B+ from me, maybe an A-. Like it's just the Carter trade and then giving up that extra value in the Drummond trade that he shouldn't have. That was really like kind of like tampered this a little bit. But he's in rebuild mode and he's so that's why I wasn't a fan of Carter and that extra pick in the Drummond trade, because he is in rebuild mode. Every other move was like geared towards going into rebuild mode, and I thought all the other moves were good in terms of rebuilding, starting off a rebuild there, which they already sucked, but like kind of restarting the rebuild, if that makes sense.
Right.
So
yep, agree.
But Solar Money, also he got in on this late because the guy running Chicago wasn't really active, so we replaced him with Solar Money Yeet. So Solar Money did not have he wasn't a part of this the first couple of days. So that might.
I like that he jumps right in.
Yeah.
I warned him, and we had a couple other new guys at the same time. I'm like, dude, you're gonna get thrown to the wolves here. You're about to be bombarded with messages and stuff. So as soon as we flipped those guys to blue in the Discord, I felt kind of bad for them, but he was making moves, man.
And the funniest thing for me was AM Productions talking about how he has a trade lined up with Chicago when the dude had never been active, and was so excited.
AM Production kept saying that he had a trade for Eric Gordon for it was Markkanen and Wendell Carter Jr. It's like the Bulls would never do that. It doesn't work financially, and the Bulls guy hasn't even talked to anyone. So how would you have that lined up?
But he's like, "Oh, I got it lined up, and then my team's good."
So Destrom is asking me to edit this, bro. We have graphics on the screen, so you can see exactly what we're talking about, and you can scrub and scroll and choose what you want to talk about. You've been here for the most of the stream anyway, so you've already seen most of the stream. Maybe you didn't get to listen because you're too busy all caps telling me to do something, move on, talk about something specific, whatever. But I mean there's no point to me to take hours to edit this, because that's what it would take, hours to edit this, and I don't even know what would I edit out, what would I leave in. I don't know what I'd do. So you can scroll after you can scroll after the video's up. So anyway, let's move on to second to last team I got here. I got the Dallas Mavericks, who traded out Kleba, Curry, Hardaway, Brunson, Finney-Smith, Justin Jackson, Boban Marjanovic, traded out the 18th and 31st pick. They've brought in Tobias Harris, Marcus Smart, DeJounte Murray, Thad Young, Terrence Ferguson, Admiral Schofield, and the 30th pick. Overall, I'm going to let you guys start with this. I'm going to let you start with this, Eric. And give your thoughts on this.
My guy, Portland made, does not like shooting. That's all I'm going to say. But overall, I like his moves. A Smart Murray backcourt isn't great shooting compared to what he had. I thought giving up Seth Curry was a huge mistake, because I thought what we were talking about earlier, and that's what I wanted to say when we got to Dallas, was when you have a guy like Doncic or like Ben Simmons, which is what the guy we were talking about earlier, a guard like Seth Curry, who's not a bad defender, he can't guard small forward. So when you're playing with Dame and CJ, it's kind of a defensive mess. But next to Doncic, I thought he was about as good of a fit as you can be at that price range without having like a star player next to him. So I didn't really like giving up Curry, but I understand his direction. I thought he won the Tobias Harris trade.
I'm so ready to go.
And I felt like he got it for free, basically. And then because Philly paid all the price for getting Levine, and then he just snuck in and took Harris out of that deal and didn't really have to give up a whole lot. But I kind of like his team overall. I just don't like not having shooting around Doncic.
I think
if the Tobias Harris was the only deal he had made, he would be the biggest winner of the deadline, I think, or of the mock-off season so far. Because Tobias Harris with Luka Doncic, Porzingis, and you still have Seth Curry. I like that team a lot. And it's still pretty young. It's still everybody's in the right window. I just don't like DeJounte Murray on that team. I don't like. Smart is a great defender, and but if I have to have, I like Curry in their offense, and I think, like I said when we were talking about the trade in Discord, I think Dallas had the best efficiency of all time on offense, or one of the best. So I kind of like Milwaukee.
Here comes Torrey to defend all the trades, so he doesn't.
But I'll bring
can't
facts.
critique anything that gives Torrey.
No, I'll bring facts right now, though. I'll bring facts. Okay, I have a question for both of you guys. I want without looking this up, who do you think had a higher 3-point percentage last year, DeJounte Murray or Kleba?
Well, Murray shot like 37 or 38%, I think.
He did.
Low volume, though.
He shot 38%. Low volume. Start shooting more. He still shot 38%. You know what I mean? I still think you guys are underrating his shooting a little bit. Like, he does not have a bad stroke. He has not shown to be a bad shooter.
Isn't Seth Curry the best three-point shooter of all time?
Yes, Seth Curry is like the one really good shooter. Hardaway shot 40%.
And he's an above-average defender.
I think Hardaway... But, you get Marcus Smart, who is a lockdown defender, shoots 35% from three. That's not great, but that's good enough to space the floor, I think, and he can get hot, and he can lock up. Like, yes, they lost shooting, but I still think they have enough. I think it's like your situation, Clays. You're talking about bringing in, like, Josh Richardson, your Drew Holiday. You got Karis LeVert in there. Like, guys who are just kind of like year to year, you don't know exactly what they're going to provide you shooting wise. I think Murray and Smart are like the same
3-point shooter of all time in my lineup either.
Seth Curry's okay. I'm not arguing the Seth. I'm arguing the thing as a whole. I'm arguing the movement as a whole. Like overall, like he's not getting necessarily like horrible shooters.
Just real quick, so he took 93s the entire season. So making like 2 or 3 would have been the difference between like 3% or so. So it's good. He's trending in the right direction, but it's not
shoot more.
A big
now
enough
he gets to play off a guy
like
Doncic. He might end up getting more clean catch and shoot looks, shoot the same percentage, and be a 38% 3-point shooter on volume. You get that with potential like all NBA defense at a guard position with some playmaking. Yeah. Like I think that's a really good guy to get. I think you know what I mean. It's a little like risky, but I think it's just like you got Murray and Smart where you don't know exactly what you're gonna get 3-point shooting wise, but if they are able to space the floor, you get their defense, and all of a sudden Dallas is just a much better defensive team. And it's not like they don't have shooting in the front court either. You still got Porzingis there. Now you got Tobias there shooting in the front court. So you do have front court shooters to kind of like offset possibly the risk of Murray and Smart not being the best outside shooters. And then Murray and Smart, best defensive backcourt in the league if they got paired together. If I was Portland,
I would say Drew and Josh Richardson.
Well, is Josh Richardson going to be your starting 2 or your starting 3? I thought Joe Harris was.
He's going to be my starting 2, man.
Honestly, DeJounte Murray and Marcus Smart could give them a run for their money. I think. I don't know. Who would you defensive backcourts, Eric?
At this point in their career, I'd probably take Murray and Smart, but it's pretty close.
It is. Yeah, I mean,
Holiday has those vet moves,
mhm.
but Smart does too.
If I was
But
Portland, I'd be nervous as hell to face off in the playoffs
I
against Smart and DeJounte Murray.
I really like Smart's fit on that team. Like I said, if he had Curry still, because Curry's not a bad defender either if he's defending other guards. So he shot over 45% on 5 attempts a game. So I don't know.
There was no way to get Smart without Curry. Let me just say that because I ended up getting
No,
Smart in that Aldridge trade, and then I wanted Curry back for Smart.
I understand that. I'm just saying. I think when you have a guy like, yes, their defense is going to be great, but like also, I think Doncic was only getting a lot of space on drives to the basket because he had a guy like Curry out there, and if you take that away,
Didn't Curry not even start though?
Kleba was, but like I said, he's taking 5 attempts a game, so that's a big part of it. And Hardaway was taking a lot of attempts too. Kleba is like Lopez, which we talked about, just because he didn't have the greatest percentage. It's still, you have to guard him out there.
Play some with Tobias there though. It's
Yeah. So overall, like I said, I kind of like the lineup he has of Murray, Smart, Doncic, Tobias, and Porzingis. That's really solid. He's going to have to kind of fill out his bench somehow.
Yeah,
but
I think he needs to sign a shooter off the bench with the mid-level, or if he has a little cap. I don't know exactly what their cap situation is, but I think he does need to end up signing a shooter off the bench to replace that role.
I don't want to get into, like, we definitely shouldn't talk specifics, but there's a certain free agent of Clay's that would be perfect on his team.
I was just thinking.
I 100% agree with that. I don't think he's an MLE target though. I think.
Yeah, I know. We're just.
You might have to pay that.
I think he's deserved a little bit more than that.
Yeah, you might have to pay that, man.
Yeah, you're the one that can offer him more, pretty much.
But yeah, you get like I think he's going after like the proper mix of shooting and defense. And I think if he's able to find that proper mix, then Dallas could be really scary. Just enough shooting to still create the space needed for Doncic to do what he does, but then improve the defense so they're not a poor, or a mediocre defense anymore. They could be possibly a good defense. I think find that right mix is important. Same for the Blazers. That's what I've always been saying for Portland. So,
yeah.
Let's move on to the last team we got here. Unless you want to add something.
No, just to add to that, the Blazers. So I think we're seeing right now the effects of losing Curry's shooting off the bench, and so I'm hoping for Portland Maid's sake that he doesn't have that same kind of effect.
Granted, we got Anthony Simons shooting worse than Marcus Smart or DeJounte Murray, which wasn't expected.
Yeah, that definitely doesn't help either.
But yeah, so anyway, here we go with OKC, who is taking a gamble on Kyrie Irving, and I don't know how I feel about that. So they're trade out Chris Paul, trade out Steven Adams, got good value for him, trade out Ferguson, a future second, unprotected Clipper 2022 first, their own first, the 25th pick and the 51st pick, got back Kyrie Irving, JJ Redick, Jalen Brunson, Jackson Hayes, Melly, the 13th pick and the 41st pick. Looking at this straight up,
okay. Yeah.
No, I mean, like, I don't even know what to say, so go ahead.
You can start, Claes.
Well, I mean, like you guys, I have no clue what's going on in OKC. They've collected such an amazing amount of draft capital over the next 5 years, and to trade half of it away or a third of it away or whatever for Kyrie. And I mean, I like the Jackson Hayes pick up for them a lot, and getting off of Steven Adams' contract.
I love the Adams trade for them.
I love that part of it because I think Jackson Hayes doesn't fit OKC because they're one of those teams I think can be a solid team, but they're not going to be a contender. And they need to figure out that they're in rebuild mode. And, I mean, they're not going to re-sign Gallinari, obviously, either. I love the Jackson Hayes trade. Everything else to me makes no sense.
Yeah, because they got off of Adams, they got Jackson Hayes and the 13th pick moving up, and yeah, I like that a lot. So if you just had SGA, Jackson Hayes, you got Baisley, I guess. You got a decent pick, the 13th pick. You could retrade Redick to a contending team. I'd really like that. And then you have all those pick assets as well. So you're set up for the future.
Exactly.
They might be set up better than Orlando because SGA is probably better than as good as Isaac's potential could be. I don't know if he's ever going to be the level of player that SGA is in terms of like star potential versus being more of a high-end role player type. So I would kind of like OKC's future more, having SGA and Jackson Hayes and guys like that and all these picks. But the fact that he went out and got Kyrie, I think, kind of ruined everything. I understand why he did it. It's just kind of like fun, and having Kyrie is cool, I guess. But
I think you could honestly flip Kyrie for more value than he gave up for him, which would be a win. If you want to go the rebuild route, or honestly, like that team has a chance to be pretty good if you tried to add more pieces around it. Do you want to do that though? That's probably not the right move unless you can become a true contender. But I mean, like they're like 4th, 5th in the West, and they got better from this trade, I'd say. You got Kyrie and SGA. I think SGA complements Kyrie well, just because he can defend, bigger guard, can still shoot off the ball. So, like, that backcourt's really, really good.
I still kind of like not messing with giving the keys to SGA. Like, if you want to trade off of Chris Paul, great, but now you have another guard. Like, I'd rather just let SGA develop and give him the keys to the franchise, in my opinion.
Yeah,
but that's just me.
I get that. I mean, he could flip Kyrie. I mean, I don't know. He has a ton of guards. I don't really know what his plan is. He has he did get Jalen Brunson for Terrence Ferguson in a 2nd-round pick. That trade was a win. And then he made some good moves to maybe set up a rebuild by trading Steven Adams in the 25th pick for Jackson Hayes, the 13th pick. I think he also got a future first. I don't remember exactly what that trade was, but I know it got good value on Steven Adams.
I'll look it up right now.
Yeah, he got.
The Steven Adams trade was amazing. That was one of the better trades for what makes sense for kind of both teams.
Honestly, I don't think it made much sense for New Orleans to go out and trade Jackson Hayes for Steven Adams. I don't think Jackson Hayes is really all that much worse for Steven Adams, and then you trade down from 13 to 25, and then they gave up extra value on top of it. I thought it was... I didn't think it made much sense for New Orleans.
There wasn't any future picks involved. New Orleans traded down from 13 and 20 to 25, so OKC sent out 25 and got back 13. And then,
so OKC stole that trade big time.
Well, the Pelicans also traded Redick and Melly as part of that. That was the extra value I was thinking of. So I mean, Redick is somebody he could flip. Redick and Jackson Hayes, I'd rather have those two than Steven Adams.
Sure.
And then he got traded up and got Melly, who I think has a chance to be a solid player.
As long as he flips Kyrie and Redick, then I would say he's got the good path to being one of the best teams in 3-5 years.
Yep. So I mean, we'll have to see what he does. But as I said at the start of this, is we were going to talk about the most active teams and then get into the teams that have been a little less active. So let's start with the Portland. Or we'll start with what you want to start with, Eric.
I have a small trade to announce.
What do we get?
It's not a blockbuster. I'm sorry, Tommy Thompson, but you just made a huge mistake. After we just praised his Denver Nuggets earlier, he is sending out Zaire Smith and Norvell Pell, which doesn't really matter because
he's
minimum contract, to the Phoenix Suns for Ty Jerome and Chick Diallo, but Denver also included only a top 4 protected first in 2022.
Why did he give up a first
or
in that?
2024.
Why,
Exactly.
Why did he... Tommy, man.
If it doesn't convey, if it's in the top 4, which it probably won't be, it turns into 2 seconds immediately. But that's basically going to be a first round pick for Ty Jerome, is what that trade turned.
Well, like Zaire Smith and Ty Jerome, I think like prospect wise are pretty
similar.
Yeah, I think Zaire actually has a little bit more value than Ty Jerome, to be honest. So like straight up Zaire Smith for Pele, or however you say it. Zaire Smith and Pele for Ty Jerome and Check Diallo, I think is like super, super even. So when you said that, I'm like, what do you? I was like, what else did he add? Like, because I was like, that sounds like a great trade, like straight across. And then the first round pick, I don't understand that. I don't get that. Like,
he really needed a backup point guard, but this is why you don't make panic moves.
You got
still have free agency, the draft. Yeah. But yeah, you could have. You know how many guys? So what happens? This is just to give all you guys a heads up on free agency. I've done these mock off seasons. What always happens, like last summer, for example, there's a guy like Ricky Rubio who no one offers a contract to because like no one cares, like no one wants Ricky Rubio, right? So then he ends up having to sign for like the room exception or the biannual exception or something like that. So you could have a guy like Ricky Rubio as your backup for the minimum or something, instead of
giving up
having
a
to
first
trade
round pick for Ty Jerome, who probably is not somebody you want playing your backup point guard on a contender.
And I know that's not the greatest free agent class, but what ends up happening is there's a bunch of like undrafted free agents and really crappy or under the radar minimum type players that everyone goes after, and then there's the big free agents everyone goes after, and then the peripheral middle ones are really easy to get because no one really is trying to go after them right away. So that's why I'm always saying, like, if you're my Charlotte Hornets, I don't want to go after Anthony Davis instead of like other free agents because like I'm not going to get Anthony Davis, so I'm just wasting my time. So like you can make moves without giving up first round picks that would actually be better than Ty Jerome in free agency, I think. And you just gave up a first, so
and you didn't need to because you already given up Zaire. So sorry, Tommy. I liked what you did with that Beal trade. That was a really, really good trade. So we just gave you your props, but now we got to give you the little bit of criticism for that trade. So anyway, let's quickly, like in the next 5-10 minutes, cover any other teams you want to cover. Blazers, let's start off with them. They traded Ariza, Gary Trent Jr., a lottery protected 2022 first, which Trevin wanted to be unprotected at first, and they also gave up a future second. Even with the lottery protected first, I wouldn't do that trade. I think you don't need to give up Gary Trent Jr. in that. Like, you probably do need to give up Gary Trent Jr. in that trade, but with Gary Trent Jr., I wouldn't do that trade, man. I don't even. It's just like too much value, and you got Gary Trent Jr. who can kind of be like a poor man's Robert Covington at, like, he's smaller, so it's at more of a wing, guard, shooting guard, small forward spot than a small forward, power forward spot like Covington. But like Gary Trent Jr. is still young too. You have to remember that, and he's developed so much this year. He's taken such a big step forward, especially with his defense. That like you give up him, you give up Ariza, who has played well here, and you give up a first round pick. And a second round pick on top of that. Like I just would not do that trade.
I get the reasoning. Covington is a good player. He's a good fit. I just wouldn't have done.
I wouldn't say it's
something
trash.
like that.
It's just something. I would have done. I would have tried to not have Gary Trent Jr. in that deal.
I think Covington with his contract, his respect around the league in regards to his value, I think it's a solid move. I like Trent as well. I think I was one of the higher ones on Trent preseason. We were talking about trading guys like Anthony and a first round pick and whatever to get guys like Covington.
Yeah.
Before the deadline, and now all of a sudden Gary Trent has a good 15-game span, and we're like, oh, dude,
it was
Gary Trent for Robert Covington is amazing.
It was more than
It's
the good
terrible.
15 game span. I mean, like all season, he's been like good defensively. I think 53
No,
games.
but I mean, and I'm like I said, he was the best shooter out of that draft, coming out, and then he underperformed, and so everybody was low on him. And I was still pretty high on him, but I'm a lot higher on Robert Covington, and to give up a first, and with that team, I would have protected it a lot more as well.
He made it
But with
lottery
that
protected.
team, okay, then a first and Gary Trent for Robert Covington, I would do.
But I wouldn't have given up Simons beforehand. Like, yeah, you gotta probably pay that much for Robert Covington, but at that point, I'm just like, okay, we're not gonna get Robert Covington. Like, I want to hear what Eric thinks.
This is why you have to factor in other moves. You can't just make it in a vacuum. So Orlando got a first-round pick for taking him on, basically, and they got a first-round pick for trading him. So in this game, trading a first-round pick to get someone that just had to have a first-round pick to get traded for doesn't make sense. That makes it a lose in my situation. But if he would have just traded like a Reza and a first-round pick for Covington to Houston, then I think it would have been a really good move. I don't know.
And Houston, it wouldn't have been anywhere near as much of an L for them.
Right, yeah.
Because, I mean, Orlando basically traded, Terrence Ross for...
And Aminu.
Terrence Ross and Aminu for 2 first-round picks, PJ Tucker, Gary Trent Jr., and Trevor Ariza. Like, what? But yeah, I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of that Portland trade. But any other trade teams you guys want to talk about?
It's what's weird about that though is like at the trade deadline, I probably would have been fine with that trade.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Any other trades any other teams? Because I want to wrap it up in like the next.
Let's talk about Dame Dollar because he wants us to talk about his Kings.
I
don't know if you really want us to talk about your Kings.
They got Derek White to be the backup point guard, but then he's been shopping Derek White after trading for him to be his backup point guard.
Yeah, I didn't think that was a bad move.
Or he gets a 30-something-year-old center that doesn't fit the timeline of anybody on his team.
He gave up way too much for Oubre.
He did get off that. If that was a protected first, I would be fine with that trade because he gets off of Barnes' contract, which I think is terrible, and then he gets a chance to look at Oubre for a year. If Oubre performs, he can try and re-sign him. If not, then let him walk, and you're off of Barnes' contract, and that helps out. Like, if that was a lottery protected first, I think that would have been a good trade, but it was, unprotected?
Unprotected, yeah.
Could be the number 1 pick in the draft, to get
Oubre.
It's...
Probably
getting off of Harrison Barnes is huge.
The 10th pick, maybe at best.
Yeah.
So you just gave up the 10th pick for Oubre. I don't know. That's especially that kind of team. Like Oubre, is going to be the same as on the Suns. It's kind of a waste to have a guy like that and not trade him to a team that needs him more. I don't know. But I like the White trade. I did not like the Brook Lopez trade for either team there, but he did get off Corey Joseph's contract, which I guess is maybe a W for him, because Corey Joseph has a terrible contract too.
Yeah, he just replaced it with Lopez's contract though. So, which obviously
taking a flyer on Dennis Smith Jr. I guess is fine, but you have Fox already and Hield and Bogdanovich. So I don't know if he really is going to get
and he
much
has Derek White in there as well.
Oh, Derek White now too. So yeah, a lot of okay moves, but I don't know. I don't think he's managed to find I think he had decent assets. I mean, he can still, I guess, trade Hield once his contract becomes tradable, but he still needs to find a front court player to pair with his roster right now.
How do you do pick wise, in terms of this year's draft? I'm trying to find it. Didn't he trade?
Well, he moved down in your trade, and then he moved back up a few spots. So he has 15, number 15, 43, and 54.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, moving back from 12 to 15 now, so not really too big of a difference in this draft. he had the number 27 pick at one time, but he traded it to Clay's. But he got Nicholas Claxton, who still has some potential. Not bad for like a second round flyer guy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I will say this on, you brought up possibly trading Buddy Hield. I wouldn't trade Buddy Hield at this point because he doesn't have his pick next year. So like if you can't really hit the rebuild button now. His team, I think, maybe got a little bit better. You bring Uprise in over Barnes, Lopez in over Bielitsa and Holmes. Like, actually. I mean, like, that's like a lateral move. So, like, he's still a lottery team, but, like, he can't get worse. That'll make it look even worse that he traded his pick unprotected. You know what I mean? And, like, he doesn't get a reward for getting worse. So it's almost like he has to try and, get better without giving up too much, because that would also be a problem if he continued giving out picks to try and get better and then was still a lottery team and didn't have like picks in multiple future years. So like he's kind of stuck just because he traded that pick unprotected. If he just protected that pick, he wouldn't be stuck. He could like hit the rebuild button and keep that pick, and that just kind of like messed him up. So that's the thing. I'm hoping people understand why protections are in place now and like learn certain things about the CBA. That is like kind of the goal with this. He said he didn't know what he was doing at the time when he made that trade with the unprotected pick. Hopefully, he learned something from that, because I think people are learning
that's the fun of playing this.
I think people are learning about the CBA in a fun way, in a hands-on way, which I think is cool. So like next year, people can suggest us trades that actually work under the CBA, because there's a lot of trade suggestions that we get that don't work under the CBA or don't make sense for a variety of reasons or stuff like that. So hopefully people will learn about the CBA and hopefully that'll be like good thing for the channel in the future, if that makes sense.
Yep. So Zacho wants to talk about the Hawks, but give us a second. Let's talk about the Knicks real quick while Russell first round exit Westbrook is in here. I did not like their trading the number 2 pick and getting Aaron Gordon. I actually think it's a decent spot for Fultz to maybe develop. But yeah, I wouldn't have traded number 2 in that package. I don't know. The rest of their trades were kind of fine. I like them getting that pick swap with Houston for basically nothing. So overall, not terrible. But I can't give him a good grade since he traded down from number 2 to 15.
Yeah.
And now has the 17th pick. Yep.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that trade either. Just the pick involved in that. Going down from 2. I would have maybe tried to, like, if he really wanted to make that trade, I think he could have traded down from 2 to, like, 7 and 16, and then given up 7 instead of 2, and then he would have had 16. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, it still wouldn't have been a good move, but it wouldn't have been as bad. Like, you didn't need to, like, giving up 2 in that trade was, like, far too much value, and he could have, like, tried to get some value out of the 2 pick, then included some of the value he got back from that 2 pick in that Gordon Fultz trade, and then kept the other half of the value or whatever, instead of just giving up the 2 pick.
Agreed.
Just from what I remember of that deal, I had Randall and Gordon pretty much a lateral move for value-wise on both teams. Mm-hmm. So that tells me you're trading the number 2 pick for Marco Fultz.
Yeah.
For moving back to 15, yeah.
So you're saying
if
Marco
Fultz ever develops, it's probably worth it, but as of this point, you can't really say that.
I mean, if he fixed his shot, he'd be worth it, but that's
And this factors into what we're probably going to talk about next with Zacho's team, where he's the Atlanta Hawks, so let's move on to them. And I feel like so far he has not valued his young players very much. You know how you get a team, I'm sure Tori has dealt with this before, where they have a lot of young players, but you're not really fans of those players, so you just want to get rid of them. Mm-hmm. But I feel like Zacho has been trying too hard to just get rid of players.
Yeah, I mean, I had that case with Keldon Johnson, and I could have included him in like multiple trades, but it was like, you know what? Like, I'm not a huge fan of him, but he does have value as the 30th pick in last year's draft, which was better than this year. So I was treating him like he was like the 20th overall pick or something, the 22nd overall pick, somewhere there. So then I included him in the marketing trade, like, because Chicago actually wanted Keldon Johnson, and, you know, I was getting back good value because I was getting back marketing. So then I included him in the marketing trade instead of just, like, giving him away early and then not having him. So yeah, I agree with you on evaluating Zach O.
Well, and he basically was close. It didn't end up working out a few times, but he was basically willing to dump Reddish for a second-round pick and stuff. And it's like the Hawks just used the 10th pick in the last draft, and he actually, I mean, he struggled at times, but the last like 20 to 25 games, he was actually playing very well. Was actually playing really well on defense, and that Hawks team was upsetting a lot of good teams at home. And you're just trying to give him away for a second. And I don't necessarily dislike the Reddish for Bamba trade, but you still have Capella, so like, do you really need Bamba? And then you had to include the 31st pick in that, which it probably would have been pretty fair straight up Reddish for Bamba, I thought.
I think Bamba has more value. To be like, Bamba struggled, but I still think Bamba is more safe of a pick. Like, upside wise, it might be even, but I think Bamba is more safe and he has a little bit more value. I think that pick was pretty even to be there. That trade was pretty even, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not saying that either one has more potential or has been better. I'm just saying, based on how each has done in the league right now, I think it's pretty even, like, in terms. And Reddish has another year more on his rookie deal than Bamba does.
Yeah.
But I thought the 8 for 12 and 31 was fine. In this draft, it's probably not a huge deal. I didn't really like trading Herder for Korkmaz. I mean, they're similar type players, but
you did like him trading John Collins for the 7th overall pick, and I forget what else was in that deal. But didn't you say you liked that?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good value for Collins, especially if he wasn't part of your future. In real life, they were trying to shop him at the deadline. Yeah.
He got back good value on that trade. He got back Thibault, who I think, you know, is a good fit next to Trae Young. You know, you need a defensive guys around Trae Young because Trae Young struggles. So you get Thibault, and Thibault can space the floor too. And then you get Robert Williams the third as well. You get back a 2024 first-round pick via Boston, which was unprotected to first went unprotected to Philadelphia in the Shake Milton trade. And then so they got the 7th pick, unprotected 2024 Boston pick, Robert Williams and Matisse Thybulle for John Collins and Bruno Fernando. That's good value. He got good value on John Collins. So that was a solid trade. That might be his best trade, to be honest. I didn't really like it first. I was kind of like, what the hell? But the more I thought about it, the more I liked that trade.
Especially after he already. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's all
no,
good.
you go ahead.
Well, especially after he traded Cam Reddish, I think the Thibault trade is huge. He's, like you said, I'm higher on Thibault than most, as I've noticed in the chats, but I think he fits in really well with that Hawks team, and they need that defensive stopper to play on that team because that team was bad on defense until the last few games.
See, I think Thibault's really good on a contending team. I think he's kind of a waste on a rebuilding type young team.
I see that as well because he's a finished product. He has such a low ceiling compared to what he is right now, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And he's already he's like a vet, even though he's a rookie. Like he plays like that. He's already a premier defender. He doesn't need to learn how to play defense like most rookies are learning and developing. He's already what he is, but he's not going to be a next level superstar. So I could see that too, but timeline wise, it works well.
Yep. Let me give a quick shout out to Russell, first round X of Westbrook, $5 donation. He said I'd donate if there are no audio problems. Stream just decided to work today, shaking my head with a facepalm emoji. Let's go, bro. Of all times for it to not have any issues, right time, I guess.
He did say that in Discord.
I did. Yeah, I never even saw that. So let's go. Appreciate the dono, bro.
I guess with Atlanta, I would say I think they've improved their future assets a little bit. They already had a lot of second-round picks, so getting more second-round picks in some of these trades wasn't huge for me. But, they got the what was it? That unprotected pick from Boston, so they picked up an extra future first. But overall, I don't know if they're any different overall versus when we started this thing.
Yeah. Yep. So I do want to log off in like 5 minutes. So if there's any other teams, quick hitters, like any other teams you guys want to cover, let me know.
Is there anyone in chat that we haven't talked about your team?
Try and cover everybody, but there's 30 teams, and there's been so many trades that's tough. Also, Clays, we'll get you back on like sometime this month because we didn't get you on in March. I don't think we got you on in February, so we might owe you a couple more, make you almost regular. Actually, you done 825, so you can come on more than once a month. Yeah, I don't know. Come on whenever you want, bro. You hit us up at this point. You just hit us up and let me know when you want to come on.
No, I appreciate it. I just wanted to say, like, with the last month and all the virus stuff going on, I mean, me contracting COVID and dealing with that and just watching streams and stuff, it's been fun. And now that I'm stuck, even though I'm recovered, I'm in like German quarantine. So I get released on Thursday to go back to the real world. But it's been fun, like waking up, and my sleep's been all jacked up since I'm still kind of not transitioned back to European time, and it's been fun just making trades and talking trash and having a good time. And definitely I've learned a few things. I thought I knew a little bit more than I probably did, so it's good to learn a few new things. I hit up Eric or something, or you or whatever, to ask about, hey, what's with this provision, or what's with that. And I could definitely see, like, just the first 2 days, like the people have progressed to learning what poison pill contracts are and unprotected picks and I can't just trade this guy who's a free agent. Why can't I do that?
Yeah.
Trevin's saying that Torrey's trying to trade for free agents.
That's a lie.
You don't know.
You guys know I know better than that.
You don't know the CBA.
So definitely, it's been fun.
Trevin told me, man.
Trevin's always like.
It's definitely been fun though, catching up and doing all this stuff, and it's made the days go by pretty quick. So that's been pretty awesome.
That was the goal with it, man. I figured this was the perfect time to do this. Quarantined, no basketball, like no draft until it looks like August, so we got a 4-month window to like play this out through multiple years if we want. Nothing else to cover on the channel, so it gives me content. Like, it was just the perfect idea, the perfect setup given everything that's going on with this whole thing. And hopefully people feel the same way as you, Clays, and are enjoying this, and we're able to have some fun while they're sitting indoors, basically, because hopefully you guys are social distancing and staying safe and staying home for the most part. And
Yo mama's not having fun.
This made me want to jump off a building at one point. I don't even know what happened with that, man. I wanna know what happened with that, but not on stream, because I wanna go get a little drive in, for a little bit, enjoy some sunlight.
It's not that long or bad. He just made that bad trade, and then everyone gave him crap, and then he felt bad, and
Oh, don't take it personally. It's.
I know, he knows.
Yeah,
we talked.
Yeah, no, nobody take any of our criticism of your moves personally or anything like that. It's literally we're literally criticizing fake moves done in a mock off season. That's literally all it is. Don't take it personally. Don't it's all for fun. It's just a part of the thing. So. And
I want to piggyback on that too, because I know like. The Magic's owner was getting mad at me, thinking I was hating on him and getting him upset. I was hating on the value of the trades or anything like that. I don't take anything personally, man. So just realize that, like, if I say you're ripping off somebody by taking 2 unprotected picks and Roko or whatever to get off of Minu, like, it's because I was a terrible trade for the other team.
Oh yeah, it's because People's Mix was kind of mean to Yo-Yo after he ripped him off in the trade too.
We're always
So, I was-
that's what I
I
just
was-
typed.
he's
We're always
always like
pissed
that.
at Mix though, so you know. But now I have
was
to
really
be nicer because he's a Patreon donor. So
I was really surprised that Eric didn't use the word finesse instead of fleeced
finesse.
in his trade
I hate that word.
I love that word, finesse. You can say it in so many different fun ways.
It was fine until Ash said it like 800,000 times, like
You just
a day.
got finessed. Yeah, I'm gonna do some finessing here tonight. Just wait and see. I probably won't. I don't know. Anyway, somebody asked about the draft like a week or two. I don't know. We don't know exactly when yet.
I was thinking maybe next Friday.
Yeah, next Friday would be good. Could start it off on stream.
Yeah.
Yeah, could start it off on stream. Let's do that. Next Friday, there you go, for the draft. That's when the mock draft will be. So you got a week to study up on prospects and do all that. So I'll catch you guys tonight in Discord. Thank you to Clays for joining us.
Yeah, good talking to you, Clays.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And we'll catch you guys. We'll catch you guys Friday with another podcast. But if you want to catch me, hit up that Discord.
Monday.
If you're, today's Friday.
Yeah, today's Friday, I think.
I don't know, man. I don't know. The days are so irrelevant now. Okay, yeah, I'll catch you guys Monday with that podcast, and I'll get out that mailbag. I've just been caught up with this whole mock thing. And yeah, if you want to hit me up on Twitter at TorJonesYT, at HoopsJock for Eric. I don't know if Clays has a Twitter, but he could maybe drop in the Discord if he does. I don't think he does. I don't know. Clays, you got Twitter?
No, I don't do it.
He doesn't mess with that. Too much drama.
Yeah.
Which, I agree. Yeah, too much. Twitter is too much drama, man. First stream highlights, I haven't been working on them because this whole mock off season. So once this stuff kind of, like not dies down, but like people aren't going crazy with this, then I'll be able to work more on that. But yeah, I'll catch you guys on Monday. Hit up that Discord if you're not already in there. And until next time, as always, peace out. Go Blazers.